Good evening, everybody. We're going to get started in a moment. As you come into the room, begin to ping your followers, begin to share on all your platforms. We are going to get it in just a few moments.
I know you're caught about it, but don't throw in the towel. Don't give up on yourself. It's too late in the hour. You gotta keep moving. You gotta keep pushing. You gotta keep walking. You gotta keep running. Don't give up. Don't you give up. No, this is not given to the swift or strong, but you gotta endure. Got to endure. Don't give up. Don't give up. The race is not given to the swift or strong, but you gotta endure. Don't be led by your senses, what you hear, see, or feel. With the fixed determination, your dreams will reveal. And no more negative thoughts about yourself. Envision positive images. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. You gotta keep holding on. Given to the swift or strong, but you gotta endure. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. The race is not given. Is not given to the swift or strong, but you gotta endure. You gotta believe. Waking up, dreamer in you, with the super to your night. If you just believe them too, now don't you get weary. Connected to His truth. Remember His thoughts towards you, for they are building. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. No, the race is not given to the swift or strong, but you gotta endure. Don't you give up.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Something to Think About broadcast. I am your host, Apostle Aaron Randall. I'm also known as Ace in the business world. You are in the PHWD Challenge room. Thank you all for coming in. PHWD Challenge stands for Purpose, Health, and Wealth Decade Challenge. If you pursue after your purpose, health, and wealth over the next decade, it will shift the trajectory of your entire life, and not only your life, but generations to come. And so tonight, we are going to continue on in the conversation. We are in part 2 of this discussion, which is entitled Failure Without Attempts. We're going to kind of dive on into it in just a moment. But before we get started, I do want to invite you all that are listening in on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Clubhouse to begin to share with your followers, share in the Clubhouse room or hallway so that we can get more people in the room. This topic of discussion has been really, really good. If anybody has missed it, the replay is available on YouTube. For those of you that are on Clubhouse, it is available in my description. I'm sorry, on my bio, and you can just scroll down and you will see the replay available. Last week was really, 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 really good. Actually, the last few weeks in particular has been really, really empowering and enlightening. Some of these rooms have been going for anywhere between like 3 to 6 hours, and people have come in and out, but God was always in the center. There was a lot of empowering, a lot of testimonies, a lot of transparency, and And that's what this room brings. We have that transparency. You get able to be free to share, but to know that this is a safe space. And whatever you have questions or issues that you got going on in your life, in that regard, you can feel free to ask. So I do want to encourage you, for those that are listening in on the other platforms, like all the Facebook pages, because right now we are literally streaming on 10 different platforms at the same time. So for those of you that are on all the Facebook pages, that's also listening in via YouTube and Twitter. If you do not want to join us on Clubhouse, feel free to post your comments on the screen. And so that I could be able to respond accordingly. And I do want to make sure that I get to you. But some of you all, sometimes StreamYard does not always show all of the comments from every page. So I do apologize if it does not show up in that regard. But I hope whatever it is shared, that we're able to cover some of the things that you might ask in the midst of this atmosphere. But let's go ahead and get it going. First, I want to say thank you all for coming on and for listening in. Some of you all have been with me through this PHWD challenge, as well as some of the other focus topics I've been on. And I thank you for your consistency and being on. Those of you that's in the room, I do see your back channels, and I understand if you're not able to speak, no worries in that regard. But whenever you're ready, you know that you are always welcome to chime in. But for those of you that are other mediums, if you want to be verbally heard, you are welcome to join us on Clubhouse. If you look at the link in the description, there's a direct link that will bring you to my profile, and you'll be able to see the channel there. If you do not have Clubhouse and you click on that link, all you do is just create a quick little profile, and you can join us and be a part of the conversation. All right, so now that we got all the preliminaries out of the way, let's get into the conversation. Let me do a little bit of a recap of what has taken place last week, because this is part 2 of this particular focus topic. And so last week, I was talking about the topic failure without attempts. And I gave a list of things of what it breeds or what it creates, failure without attempts. And so I'm going to go over these lists. If you want to write them down, I'm going to encourage you to write them down so you can begin to go over your life and really just kind of like dissect these things even within yourself, to see where there might be some sort of delay or limitation, or why things are not manifesting in the way that you're expecting it to. And we always want to blame the devil, we always want to blame God, but sometimes we do not want to look inward and accept the fact that we might be the problem, we might be the issue. So let me go ahead and break down what failures without attempts creates. So again, I'm going to go over these, and feel free to write them down. I'm going to say them twice so that you can write them down. And then if you miss it, don't worry, I am going to go back over these. And we already went through the first 5 and first 6. And so we're going to go over the last 6 tonight. So the first one is failure without attempts activates self-sabotage. Failure without attempts activates self-sabotage. Now, before I continue on, let me explain why it says failure without attempts with an S instead of failure without an attempt. The reason why it's worded that way is because sometimes we make one attempt or maybe even 2 attempts, and because it doesn't come out the way that we expect it, we automatically give up. Especially of us as believers, we have this complex and this issue that we think that when we put our hands to it, the first time it's supposed to come out perfect. It's supposed to come out, with abundance. It's supposed to come out exactly the way that it intended. And, it's not always going to be that way. Sometimes if at first you don't succeed, you have to try and keep trying until you succeed. Now, so That's why it says attempts with an S, because sometimes you have to do it multiple times in order to get the results that you're looking for. So I'm going to go back over that first one again. It's failure without attempts activates self-sabotage. I'm going to say it again. Failure without attempts activates self-sabotage. The second one is failure without attempts increases the spirit of fear. Failure without attempts increases the spirit of fear. The third one, failure without attempts, produces the spirit of laziness. Failure without attempts produces the spirit of laziness. The fourth one, failure without attempts, enlarges procrastination. Failure without attempts enlarges procrastination. The next one, failure without attempts, motivates doubt. Again, failure without attempts motivates doubt. And then the last one we spoke on last week is failure without attempts kills potential relationships. Failure without attempts kills potential relationships. Now, I'm not going to go through these thoroughly in detail like I did last week, so I'm going to give a quick recap of why why failure without attempts breeds these different things. So the first one, failure without attempt activates self-sabotage. When you don't begin to be motivated to move on the thing that you are meant to do or fulfill in the earth, your purpose, your destiny, your goals, your dreams, even what this the PHWD challenge is, which is purpose, health, and wealth, it activates that spirit of self-sabotage in you that you find a way to kill it. How does that happen? You would say, I'm getting ready to lose 50 pounds. But then in the next breath, you will say, but, I don't have enough money right now. So I'm going to, wait till I can get access to some food stamps or get a little extra money. And then I'm going to start. So it's like you're giving the positive of what you want to do, but you'll find a way to kill it in the next breath. It's like, that's how the self-sabotage works. Or you'll find a way to give you an excuse to not accomplish it. So when you don't make an attempt, it activates, it literally fuels that self-sabotage in you, that you begin to use excuses on why you won't make an attempt, why you won't move forward, or why you won't accomplish or go after what that thing is that you're meant to be or accomplish. So failure without attempts activates self-sabotage. The next one that we talked about last week was failure without attempts increases the spirit of fear. It increases it. It literally invites it in, because 9 times out of 10, the reason why a lot of us won't start or make moves in the direction of what it is that we're meant to do or fulfill or what we need for our life is because fear is a factor. And so when fear is a factor, it couples with the spirit of self-sabotage, because now you're going to find an excuse on why you won't do it. But the root of it is governed by fear. You're scared of the unknown. You're scared that you might fail. You're scared that you might succeed. You're scared that it might put more of a demand on you that you're willing to do. You're scared that it's going to pull you out of that uncomfortable, out of that comfortable place of being uncomfortable, and you don't know what the outcome is going to be like. So it activates and increases it fuels that spirit of fear in you when you use failure to attempts. When you don't attempt to go after the thing that you're meant to go after. So it activates that spirit of fear. And how you kill that spirit of fear or the failure of the attempts is when you begin to make the move in it and not be fearless, and you have faith, and you have a fortitude to say, you know what, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to take a risk. The third one that we talked about last week was failure without attempts produces laziness. It gets you in a comfortable place that you feel like you have time to do it later. Or, I'll put this off for tomorrow. You put off for tomorrow what you can do today. And then you find yourself 10 years later, still haven't moved on it. 5 years later, 20 years later, you haven't evolved and changed, and it produces that spirit in you that you just say, oh, okay, well, I'll just do it when I feel that I'm ready or when I feel I have time for it. And then you look up favor, connections, whatever that could help you get to that place. Laziness has gotten the better of you. And laziness is not going to be an attribute of anything that's going to help you accomplish anything that you want to do in your life. So that is something that has to be killed. So we talked about failure without attempts. It literally produces the spirit of laziness or lazy attributes in your life. The next one is failure without attempts enlarges procrastination. Now, laziness and procrastination works hand in hand. Laziness is like literally that lethargicness and not just just putting it off or what have you. But procrastination can be that you've actually made moves in it, but you're not putting forth the energy. You're not putting forth all of the focus and the drive to get it done. So you'll do a little bit here, and then you'll wait another few weeks, and then you do a little bit there, and then you're moving in snail pace, and you're not as committed, or you don't see it through to the finish, and so you'll start but not finish. So failure without attempts is it enlarges the procrastination mindset. That's what it enlarges. The other one that we talked about last week was failure without attempts motivates doubt. How does it motivate doubt? Because you're moving in fear, which literally kills faith. So you are literally operating in doubt. Well, I don't know. Maybe it might not work. Well, I don't know. And you move in assumptions, and you don't know what it's going to bring until you do it. I think I said this last week, or maybe I might have had it in a private conversation, that I said, we can look at food and be like, oh, that don't look good. I'm not even going to try that. That looks disgusting. It looks disgusting. But you haven't even tried it to even see if it even tastes good. Your eyes can deceive you, and it might look like it look like vomit. But when you taste it, you be like, you know what? This is actually good. And you begin to acquire a taste for something that you didn't even realize, because you looked at it and it looked disgusting, but you didn't even try it. You didn't even attempt to see what it tastes like. And so that's what happens in our life. We look at a dream, we look at a vision, we look at some things that we want to do in life, and we look and we'll get doubt or get doubtful about it. I don't know. I don't think that might not work out. But you haven't even tried it. The world says that when you make assumptions, you make a what of yourself. So when you assume, that's literally what happens, because you're literally putting doubt in an area where you haven't even tried. You haven't even given it an opportunity. You haven't even made an attempt. You thought you might go to school. You thought you might not complete that business. You might have thought that you don't have the capability through your talents to get notoriety and the stardom. But until you kill that doubt and you begin to make attempts, then that's what's going to kill that doubt. That's what's going to kill that fear, that laziness and procrastination, is making attempts. And not only making attempts, keep going. The last one we talked about last week was failure without attempts kills potential relationships. How does it kill potential relationships? Is because when you do not move in the direction or do something different, there might be new relationships or partnerships that's being made in that going, in that doing, staying at home and being comfortable in your bed and watching TV and eating bonbons and, and all that stuff. But if you would have said, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and walk the block today. And then you walk the block and then somebody sees you like, oh, that's a nice outfit. And then it was like, wait, walk. Oh, do you mind if I walk with you? And then you end up meeting somebody that might be the connection to the connection of the thing. But how would that relationship have been acquired if you stayed at home? If you stayed comfortable? before I move on to the other things that we're going to talk about today, I'm going to give you a prime example of how this happened for me. I need you to pay attention to what they're talking about. And I said, okay. So I took my headphones off and I began to engage and listen in. And the two black guys were owners of an NBA team. They're originally from Chicago. They were coming back to their home city to build a youth facility, at-risk youth facility on the south side of Chicago. And the guy that they were talking to, he literally looked like Clark Kent. I mean, like Superman. Literally, haircut, build, everything. The current guy that plays Superman, he looks just like him. And so they were talking to him, and he they was like, okay, we want to do this and this and whatever. And they were just talking business. And so the Lord said to me, the guy in the middle, that's who you need to talk to. And I said, Lord, okay, what, if you want me to make that happen, you want me to do this, then allow it to happen. Let me be able to get in by himself. So after they finished their meeting, the two guys said, we're going to meet up with you later or what have you. He said, well, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll see y'all at the event. He comes out. Before he was getting ready to walk out the door, I stopped him and had a conversation with him about some things that I was working on. He said, you know what's so funny that you stopped me, because I'm actually doing an event tonight that has investors involved, and you need to come. It's a red carpet event. It's going to be on the near north side of Chicago. You need to come. I'm like, really? He was like, yeah. He said, matter of fact, here's my phone number. Text me your number so I can put you on the VIP list. I said, sure. Now I'm frantic because at the time I had locks. I'm like, my hair looking crazy. I'm like, I ain't got no suit that's ready. That need to be in the cleaners. Like, Lord. So I'm scrambling trying to get there to this event. And I got there, late, and I end up meeting former NBA players. I end up meeting venture capitalists. I end up meeting some entertainment attorneys, and what the event was like a spinoff of the show Shark Tank, and it was called Sink or Swim, and they were going to do a pilot show in the city of Chicago to give Chicago its type of show like what Shark Tank does for New York, even though it's not based on New York per se, but it's based in that area. And so they were working on that. And because of me being at the right place at the right time and not deciding, I'm just going to work from home today. I'm not going to go to Panera Bread. I'm not going to, I'm just going to just stay home and just, relax and just, do what I need to do and just try to, whatever. But if I would have stayed home, I would have missed out on that potential relationship. And so I made an attempt, instead of staying in a comfortable place, to go ahead and get up, not with the intent to go meet anybody. But sometimes when you are in a motivated state and you are in a driven and a focused state to accomplish something, you will eventually connect to people. And that used to happen and it still does. It happens to me all the time. I can be somewhere, and because of, me being raised by a woman that is a person that is friendly, that builds friendships anywhere that she goes. That is something that has been ingrained in me, that I can just talk to anybody on the street or anybody on transit or whatever, and meet someone and have no clue, and end up building friendships and building connections in that regard because of being friendly. And so if I would have stayed home, I would have missed that red carpet event, my first red carpet event I ever went to. And it was at a luxury car dealership. And it was so crazy how the scenario went. They in here with $1,500, $2,000-$3,000 suits on, shoes cost $4,000 and $5,000 and $6,000, or what have you. Everything they got on is probably way more than what I was making in a whole year. You know what I mean? And in this luxury car dealership, in this secluded room that it was like a hidden door, that they had a half-court basketball court. And so I'm in here with these guys, they in their suits hooping, like what is going on? I'm sitting here like, God, how did this happen? How did I end up getting here? Because I was at the right place at the right time, even though I was not expecting it. God brought a connection. But if I would have stayed home, it would have missed out on a potential relationship. So I'm saying all that to say this is, again, when you do failure to attempts, when it comes down to your purpose, when it comes down to your future, when it comes down to your purpose, health, and wealth, or what have you, it can kill potential relationships because you might not ever meet them, or because of sabotage, fear, laziness, procrastination, and doubt is a factor in your life. It could kill the potential relationship. I had a conversation with a wealthy friend of mine just yesterday, and I was saying to him, I say, look, God is bringing people in your life that is able to help you in these areas. And I know you're killing it on the money game and you're doing very well financially, but in a soulish realm, you need help here, and here, and so on and so forth. And God is connecting you with people because you have been through so much in your past. Just like the rooms that we dealt with 2 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago about the healing that takes place because of being hurt and being abused, that will kill potential relationships. So sometimes you have to make an attempt to even get healing, to get deliverance, to allow God to heal those areas of your life, because that thing will kill potential relationships. So before I continue on, let me reset the room because I know we get some new faces coming into the room. Thank you all for coming into the Something to Think About broadcast. Again, I'm your host, Apostle Aaron Randall. I'm also known as Ace in the business world. You are in the PHWD Challenge Room, which stands for Purpose, Health, and Wealth Decade Challenge, which means that you pursue after your purpose, health, and wealth over the next decade is going to shift the trajectory of your entire life. And so today we are talking about a focus topic, failure without attempts. And there's a list of things that we're going over that happens when you don't make attempts. Failure without attempts is like, you accept failure without making the attempts. And when you don't make the attempts, it breeds these things: spirit of fear, laziness, sabotage, procrastination, doubt, and kills potential relationships, which is the last one that I spoke about. So I wanted to bring you all up to speed of what we're talking about thus far. And once I go over a few more, I'm going to open the room up because I do want us to chime in on this discussion and this focus topic. All right. So last one I left off was failure without attempts kills potential relationships. And then the next one is almost similar, but a little different. This can work in a different way. What have you? Failure without attempts blocks future partnerships. Partnerships, what I mean by in this aspect, is people that's going to come alongside of you, that is going to help you along in your process, whether it is business partnership or a partnership, somebody that you're going to marry, a spouse. So when you have these self-sabotage, fear, laziness, procrastination, all these things that are a factor in your life, it could block future business partnerships. I gave that example about the friend of mine that is very wealthy, that is dealing with some traumas or what have you. If you don't deal with those things, it will block future partnerships. That people won't want to work with you. People won't, see your potential, see that you have amazing talent and have an amazing gift and worth investing into in the whole gamut. But because of these things being a factor and not being able to make the appropriate attempts in your life, it will kill or block future partnerships. And so this is really important that you deal with that now, because if you don't deal with it now, it will literally hinder any type of partnership on business or even personal partnerships of people that will walk with you through your process or your journey, or even you walking with them through their process and their journey, because you might partner with them. So these things are really important, that you have to understand these different dynamics, because if you don't, it will literally sabotage everything that you are trying to build and accomplish in your life. So I know I've said a lot. We have some more to go over, but I do want to kind of open this up in the room. If there's some from the ones that I spoke about last week, you can chime in on those. And if you want to talk about the two ones from today, well, the one from today that I mentioned, failure without 10 blocks, future partnerships, you can dive into those as well. So it's popcorn style like always. Anybody want to chime in on the discussion?
I will go ahead and jump in first today. First, thank you so much, Apostle, once again for having this amazing platform in this room for us to be able just to share ourselves, because really that's really what it's all about. Like when we're out here and like we're going through life, it's just about sharing yourself and understanding you ain't the only one out there going through the same thing. So as I was listening to you, it's like I started just literally honestly reflecting on this past week and just thinking about like the different things that I've been going through. And so it's on the relationship side, but then also on the personal side for myself, and then just also on the spiritual side of things, just understanding like, on the personal side, it's like, okay, here and once again go on that healthy life journey. That's why I call it a healthy life journey, not a weight loss journey, because everybody don't want to be I'm one of those people, but I do want to be healthy. Okay, so but just going through this pandemic and everything, just going through the ups and downs of what the pandemic brought, I went from 208 to now I'm at 255 pounds. So I'm like, hold up, I have to really get back into this. So just today, I came in and I'm like, oh man, let me just sit down for a second. And this is like, as I'm listening to, the different topics and so forth, this is like literally happening real time. And I heard you said the spirit, just the failure of procrastination, like it brings on procrastination. And I'm like, oh, I can sit down for a minute and then I get up and get on the bike and do it. And I'm like, well, no, then I'm going to mean that more than likely I'm going to go to sleep, and then it's not going to happen, and then that's going to trigger something else, So just understanding like how one thing trickles into the next thing, trickles into the next thing, and then before you know it, you have, just totally said, I'm not going to do it at all. Because not only did you fail yourself because you procrastinated, but now you failed yourself because you don't see that you're worthy of completeness. And so, when you come to a point to where you have seen like, and so I'll use myself here, is that when I've come to a point that I've seen myself at 280 pounds and I know I can do that, where now is the fear that I cannot? What am I now running away from? Because I already know I can do that. I've already been there. And I know how I felt. I know the better part of me at that weight. Okay, so therefore it's just like, what am I waiting for? What am I scared of? Am I scared that I'm not going to be able to maintain it? Am I scared that I'm not going to be able to, really achieve it in the time frame that I want to achieve it in? Like, what am I really now afraid of? Yeah. And that's where it's like, and the doubts and all those things come in. So I love this topic, so much. And just on the relationship side, with a guy that I am talking to, it's like, I just literally, I asked him this question this morning. I'm like, do you still like me? And he was like, where did that question come from? Like, he was confused. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you thinking? What's going on here? And but it was just a question. Like, I just want to know, you still like me? Let's make sure we're on the same page here.
Right.
That's where my mind was. But then after I thought about it, perhaps how he perceived it, it's like, okay, did I do something? You know, now I'm placing him in the mindset of, hold on, did I do something? Did I not say something? Like, why was she asking me that question? Now you're trying to figure out why I'm asking the question with me, and I just want to know we on the same page. But then it then puts you on, you know, put me in a mindset of understanding, like, do I feel that I'm worthy of this relationship? Do I feel like I can actually be able to be myself in this relationship? Am I good enough for this relationship? Is he good enough for me? You know, all these different type of things that come about in your mind, like, then when you start thinking, and then it transpires into, no, I don't want to do it. You know, let me just leave this alone because this has become too difficult. When it's not difficult, I made it difficult. You know, so it's just, you know, a lot of different things. That's why I love this conversation. I cannot wait just to hear what everybody on the platform has to say tonight, because I am literally all ears open. Because, like I said, just today, just the things going through today, it's like, okay, I need to be fed in the area where I just need that one word, perhaps that like that light bulb goes off, to be able to just, you know, get all the way in. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak today, and I will yield my mic.
Indeed. Excellent stuff. This is really, really good already. I see Apostle, you're unmuted. You are welcome to go ahead. You're free.
Thank you so much, and I really got to change my name, right? So for topics like, not for topics like this, but just in general. First of all, I want to say to the speaker that spoke before me, I applaud you and I celebrate you. I know the journey. Being a former plus size woman, I was busting the seams at my highest weight. At 417 was my highest weight. And I'm down now to a size 14. And I get it. I get all the doubts. I get all of that. So before I get into what I wanted to say, I applaud you. And I get your open and honesty, and all of your questions are valid, right? And you're going to go through many transformations in terms of how you view yourself and how you think others are going to view you. But I just want to say I applaud you and keep on your journey. But I wanted to speak to the topic tonight and go back to what is being fearless, right? What is that like? And being fearless while being uncomfortable. And what does that take, right? So I would speak to anybody that's dealing with that, is that the first thing is that you've got to reduce your fear level, right? And what do you have to lose, right? So you got to look at what, being fearless, in order to take that leap, right? You don't have it what you want anyway. So taking that leap, moving forward, you don't have what you want anyway. So taking that leap doesn't mean you're not gonna get it if you don't do it. So if you take that leap and do it and you don't get it, you've not lost anything. And I had to come to that realization in my life, and I didn't come to that realization until I was in my 40s. Like, you don't have it, Norma. You don't have it. So why not take that leap? Be fearless. Take that leap, because you don't have that $1 million contract yet. So take that leap. So I want to encourage you. You don't have it. So what are you going to lose? You're not going to lose anything because you don't have it. Secondly, you got to be confident. So one of the ways you get that confident is surrounding yourself with those who are in your market or at a greater level. And one of the things that I do is I came to the realization that you got to be in a room where you're not the smartest person in the room, right?
Indeed.
Now, I got degrees up the wazoo. They're all on my wall. And I do that so that my clients know I'm qualified to do what I do. But I put myself in a room with people that are more degreed than me. Why? Because when you limit yourself and you're the smartest person in the room, you're at the ceiling, right?
Indeed.
If we want to build that confidence, as Apostle already said to us, hey, he found himself in a room of, hey, this is water, right? I was meant for the sea. I'm not meant for the pool. The pool is where I relax after I've accomplished something. But the sea is where I learn to swim. The sea is where the whales are. The sea is where the big fish are. So I want to say to those of you tonight is that you want to make sure that you are surrounding yourself around individuals that think higher, think greater, right? So that may mean distancing yourself from individuals that think just like you. And then lastly, if I may, right, you want to be gutsy, right? Gutsy. And that word is gutsy for a reason. And I believe this. I'm a spiritually based individual, and so I hope this does not offend anybody that may be not so. But you got to clear your gut, right? The Bible that I read says, let your bowels be clean. That means you can't have anything blocking you. In the natural, when your bowels are not clean, you can be subject to disease, cancer, all kind of stuff goes on when your bowels are not clean. That's what I tell you. Make sure you clean your bowels. I want to say to those of you that are willing to make that next step, let your gut be clean and make some gutsy moves. And I yield, and thank you for this opportunity to share.
Indeed. Make some gutsy moves. That's how you kill fear, is when you do that. I gave y'all last week about the example of me going zip lining, and I'm like, I'm all the way up here and I can literally fall to my death. And the Lord said to me, you done climbed up all these stairs and paid this money, and they gave you $250 worth of extras for free because it was your birthday and you about to tuck tail and go back. Really? And then he did it again to me when I was going snorkeling because of the mask that the goggles that I had on was rigid underneath the nose, so the seawater was getting in, salt water was getting in my nose and was triggering my allergies, and it kept getting in my mouth. And I hate salt water. I hate it. And God said, "You are missing it." He said, "You're missing it. You are literally in the ocean." Given free opportunity to snorkel and look at the seabed and look at all the beauty in the ocean that you only see in photos. You are missing it. And I had to figure out a way how to hold that mask on my face, and I know how to swim. But I had to hold the mask on my face. I had to make sure that my hose that was out my mouth was not going in the water, so the seawater would get in my mouth. And I was able to see the beauty of the ocean, but I was so irritated because my nose was running and the salt water was getting in my mouth, and I kept spitting out and blowing my nose in the sea and all. And it was like, don't hit the seabed with your hands or your flippers because you'll mess up the seabed. I was hitting everything in the ocean floor. But when the Lord said to me, you are missing it. You're missing it. It clicked. You said a light bulb moment, right? That was my light bulb moment in that instance. Was just like, you are in an opportunity to experience something that you probably would have never experienced before, because you might have not been able to financially afford it. You might have not been able to really do it. But I treated myself on that vacation, and I didn't even know I was doing these things. They gave me these things for free. I was just going to do a few little things and pay my little $85 and just enjoy and say I did some things. But when they was like, "Oh, it's your birthday," and I went by myself, they was like, "Oh, we're gonna hook you up." I'm like, wow, and I was about to mess over a blessing. A blessing. Because of what? Because I was being irritated, because of fear. And it's like you will miss out on bliss, on happiness, on your purpose being fulfilled, on your destiny being accomplished, on that weight loss journey, on whatever it is that you're supposed to do and fulfill in the earth, because you're allowing these things to govern your life because you even fail to even make an attempt. That's the whole point of this room, failure without an attempt. You are literally calling yourself a failure and you ain't even tried. You ain't even tried. You won't even make a leap to even see what happens. And some of us have tried it, and because it didn't come out perfect the first time, I see, I knew. Anybody that is a cook or a baker knows that 9 times out of 10, if it don't come out right the first time, you're going to mess up, but you're going to tweak the recipe. And sometimes it might come out perfect the first time, but you don't remember all what you put in it. So when you do it the second or third time, it might come out trash. Are you going to give up? See, my mother was in this room earlier, and she is masterful at making dressing. Masterful. I have not found anybody else ever, and it's not because I'm biased. It's verifiable that she makes the best dressing and mac and cheese. That is what she's known for. That's what people ask her to make whenever it's holidays, and it doesn't matter if it's friends, if it's family, or whatever. It could be a complete stranger that just ate it and be like, look, I want you to make it for me because I love it in that regard. But she has instances where she be like, I didn't put my foot in it this time. To her, it wasn't good. But to everybody else, it was amazing. Amazing. But to her, she felt it didn't come out as well. I'm like, you have lost your mind. This is better. You know, so sometimes we can be over analytical about ourselves, that we will literally be fearful to even take a risk or take a move because of fear. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but he gave you 3 to counteract the 1: power, love, and a sound mind. But when you allow fear to govern and rule and reign in your life, it will literally encapsulate your sound mindedness. It will literally encapsulate your love, because you love through the lens of fear. And it will encapsulate your power that you feel like you don't have any. So you got to realize that he gave you 3 greater than the 1 to overtake that. And if you move in power, love, and a sound mind, then fear is not a factor, or it's at a minimal factor in your life, that these will overshadow that. And so why am I saying all of that? Is because we got to stop allowing fear to govern in our lives, to not make an attempt. This woman of God just clearly said that she has a line of degrees on the wall. Some of God is trying to do that for y'all. Well, I don't know. I hated school when I grew up, so I don't think I'm going to be good at it. You don't know. You ain't been. Have you been to college? You don't know. Have you completed a course? Have you gotten your associate's degree, your bachelor's, your master's? Have you want to get a doctorate degree or ascribe to go to a PhD program? No, because you never tried. You never tried. And so again, failure without attempts, you're deeming yourself a failure without even making the attempt. That's the whole reason for this room. That's what we're talking about. And just to quickly reset the room for those that are coming in, you're into Something to Think About room. I'm your host, Apostle Aaron Rando, known as Ace in the Business World. And this room is entitled the PHWD Challenge, Purpose, Health, and Wealth Decade Challenge. And our focus topic this week is talking about failure without attempts, and it lists several things of what it breeds. It activates self-sabotage, it increases the spirit of fear, it produces laziness, it enlarges procrastination, it motivates doubt, it kills potential relationships, and the last one we talked about today was it blocks future partnerships. And so we're kind of going around the room right now before we kind of go on to the other lines of things that it does. But we're just kind of do a popcorn style about these things that we talked about so far. And you are welcome to share. Those of you that are in the listening lounge, you are welcome to come up and join the conversation. If you don't want to join up, feel free to post your comments in the message board as well. And those of you that are listening in on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you can also do the same as well. So I just want to reset for those that are new to the room and to bring you up to speed to what we're talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and open it back up to the room. Anybody else want to chime in on the conversation?
Good evening, everybody. Praise the Lord to you.
More grace, man of God.
I have to be honest. I'm one of those people who God has anointed to do art since age 3, and it's like, yes, I have utilized my art. I've done murals, but at the same time, seeing how my artwork is through God is able to affect and touch people. I say to myself, to God, sometimes, like, Father, I should be much further along than this. And I do everything from keeping myself focused on the now rather than the past, and also limit any naysayers as well. But the issue is still me, because you can't escape you. I mean, wherever you go, you are there.
Indeed.
So, nevertheless, with that being said, I have, popped the bubble when it came down to, doing things out in the open for everybody to see, even murals, 6 by 6 foot by 6 foot murals, thank God. But I'm still trying to, as one person once told me, your gifts are going to make room for you. That's even written in the Word. My only thing is that where exactly out there for everybody to see. So, it's like that's still something which I have already, rededicated doing my art for Christ. And it's just now I'm just trying to find a platform where my art can be seen by everybody. So, that's my only hiccup right now. Just, overcoming that. I guess it is a little bit of fear factor that although it's like I know that what God blessed me to be able to do is second to none. And I'm not, bragging. I'm bragging on God because He's the one who gave me the gift.
Indeed.
But the crazy thing about it is that although I can do what I can do, that's the crazy part. That's the oxymoron of it all, which is okay. You can do what you do. Maybe it's lack of confidence. I can't put my finger on it. So that's pretty much my case right now in a nutshell.
Apostle, can I speak to Maisel?
Sure, absolutely.
So, as soon as you opened your mouth, I got a word for you. And the 2 words I have for you is, 1, you're in the wrong location. And that's what's hindering you. The assignment is to stifle your work. And it's almost literally like the people that need to recognize you can't locate you. Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole lot of people looking for you, but they can't find you because you're in the wrong market. So that's the thing you need to be praying. Lord, show me my market. Yes. Right? That's the thing you need to pray. Then the second thing is you need a mentor. You need somebody like a brand manager, somebody that you can talk to that can get you in the right place so that those that are looking for you can find you. I've not even seen one piece of your artwork. I don't know anything about you, but I know I can hear. Yes. As soon as you opened your mouth, this is what Abba shared with me. So it's not you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with your artwork. There's nothing wrong with, and I love the confidence that you said, my stuff is good. I was just like you. My clients be like, I don't know. But you know your stuff is good. And what the Lord showed me is that you're not being able to be located. It's like they're not picking you up on the blip. They're looking for you, but you're in the wrong market. You need to find out how to get in the right place. Mm-hmm. So that would be my prayer to the Lord. Father, show me where I need to be picked up on the map, and then find the right brand person or the right mentor that can show you this is where you need to be. The reason why they're not liking your stuff or blah, 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 right, is because this is where you need to be. So thank you, Apostle, for allowing me that opportunity to share that.
Absolutely. And I'm going to concur with this and as a wisdom principle to the word, because, you know, the word of knowledge came and the oracles of God was just spoken. But now let me give you a word of wisdom to connect to that, because sometimes we'll get caught in the prophetic, but we don't know where to move and how to operate what was just said. So let me add to that, because I'm also a prophetic as well. And I teach this from a principle, because in church, we talk about the principle of the seed: sow your seed, sow your seed, sow the seed. But it's way bigger than that. And so not only am I going to pray that you have God to reveal to you where your audience is, but for God to give you the mindset of a farmer. See, here's the thing: what's the significance about having the mindset of a farmer is when they go and buy bag seed, they have to examine the seed to know where it's going to be best fruitful. See, not every seed is able to breed in every atmosphere, in every soil, in every territory. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you have to understand where you're going to be of most value, and that you're going to be able to flourish to your fullest potential. To your fullest potential, not partial, fullest potential. So if I live in Georgia, I'm from Chicago, so I know the North very well. I've only been living here in Georgia 3.5 years. So here's the thing: if I have palm tree seed, and I live in more of a tropical or warmer environment during those years, and I take that seed to the north where it gets frost or gets cold, or we're bound to get 30 inches of snow dang near in the middle of summer, is that seed going to flourish there? No, because it's not bred for that environment. It needs to be created for the environment that is going to be the most fruitful. So what you have to do is examine your seed, examine these hidden gifts in earthen vessels that God has given you, and to know where it's going to flourish it. If you got ribs and chicken and all that stuff, and you live in a community of people that are health conscious and vegans or vegetarians, is that business going to flourish? No, because it's not to the appetite of the people, or that or conducive to the people in that region or in that territory, or it's not gonna be fruitful in that regard. You might get a few stragglers that come in, but at some point it's probably going to either taper off or it's going to die. And so you want to make sure, and this is for anybody in business or got a purpose or have a ministry. You have to examine your seed. Where is it going to flourish? If you don't know your target market, if you don't know your assignment, if you don't know where it's going to thrive, where you the territory that you're meant to be in, then it's not going to come to its fullest potential. So I pray that you begin to have, and all of us in this room, begin to have the mindset of a farmer. When God moved me down here to Georgia, and this is not even the place I wanted to come to ever. Let me be very clear. Ever wanted to come here, because I know the atmosphere is contaminated, but the Lord says the ground is rich, sow your seed. And I understood from the principle of the fact that just because the air might be toxic, there's richness in the soil. And as long as what it is that I'm building is going to grow in this environment, then it's going to come to its fullest potential. So I just wanted to just share that to activate that in you while you're praying. Ask God to reveal to me, God, where is my audience? Where is my art is going to grow to its fullest potential? Where is the people that's looking for, that's hungry for, that's going to spend hundreds of thousands, not a few hundred, a few thousand. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands.
Go get a whole paper towel. Go get a rag.
Hundreds of thousands of your art, or even millions, for your art to come to its fullest potential. And so that's why I want you to be encouraged to ask God to reveal to you and to show you where is it that you're supposed to be. And it might require relocation. Or even if it doesn't require relocation, it might require you to just begin to build a presence and a voice in a region or area. And it might not even be in the United States. It could be over in Europe. It might be in Africa. You just never know. But ask God to reveal to you where you're going to be fruitful and multiply. But don't allow the spirit of fear, Don't allow your current circumstances and financials and your credit and what you got and what you know to be a factor. Because many plans is in a man's heart, but it's God's will that prevails. And if any man likes wisdom, ask of the Lord, he gives it liberally. If you ask God, he will give you wisdom. I'm going to say this last bit. I'm going to open this back up to the room. That I said this to, I say this often, that your vision and your purpose is the starting point and the end destination. It's a starting point to get you to move. It's the end destination because that's where you're going to end up. But God is the GPS system. You put that vision back into his hands and you begin to mobilize in the direction of where God is taking you. If you notice that any GPS system, it does not give you directions until you're in momentum. So put that back in God's hand and begin to move in the direction of what it is that he's saying. And as he begins to lead you, he's going to begin to tell you, go 10 blocks and make a right, and then go 5 blocks and make a left. And he's going to begin to direct your path, but you got to be in a place of momentum. So I just want to encourage your heart with that. You're in the right place in the right moment in the frame of mind because you're hungry. You want what it is, what he wants to do for you. And now this is the time where God is enlightening you and empowering you. There's a slogan that says, when the student is ready, the teachers come. You're at a ready state. And God is going to connect you to the people that's going to have your future in their mouth. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Also, if you're curious, just look at my my bio. The Instagram site is there. So if you ever want to take a look at it, you're welcome. Please. Thank you very much.
Did you load anything on your Instagram? Because I was just on it and I only see your picture. I don't see your art.
Well, actually, I've been meaning to remove that one. It's Marksman 2022.
Okay.
You'll have to search. I don't know how to get rid of the current one, but it's Marksman, MARXMAN 2022.
Yeah, if you go on your profile, and I think if you hit either tap on your profile itself, it should open up like your whole verbiage and give you the links that you can edit your Twitter and your Instagram links from there. You can change it out. But I am following you on the one that's on your page.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. Be blessed.
No problem. And thank you so much, Apostle, for illuminating that, because we were on the same page. I just wanted to thank you for that as well. Anybody else want to jump in before we shift to the next ones?
I just wanted to say, Apostle, thank you for this space and sharing those as I have been going through absolutely those how I said it to God. I feel stuck. He said, but what are you doing with what I given you in your hand? And so I was like, okay, well, I need people. I need help. Where to help at? And so me and God go back and forth like this sometimes. The lawyer in me, I just can't help it. And so finally I said, okay, wait, as you send the people, I'll get the things accomplished. As you send the finances, I'll do what you're saying for me to do. And so every now and then he taps me on the shoulder and go, don't forget about that over there. And I've sent you an email, and I'm getting these things together, the ebook and all these other things. And as I'm doing it, I'm like, okay, I need to get this off the list, scrape the plate before I add more. But at the same time, I can't worry about it, how full the plate is. I just got to do it as he gives me the opportunity, the finances, and the people to accomplish the goals and meet the task. Because as you said, without even trying, then you've already failed. And so I was looking for an illustrator, not a graphic designer for the ebook. Mm-hmm. And I tried someone. And the first thing they sent, I was like, okay, you getting it, and then the second thing they sent, I was like, oh my God, no. And it was like in a flash of a light, that discouragement was like, do you really want to keep trying this? Do you really want to keep paying money? I was like, look, as long as there's money in the bank, this is a project that God built, and He's going to pay for it, however many I got to go through to get to who He told me to get to, that will bring to life what the vision He placed in my head. That's what's going to happen. And so I was praying as the person was doing it. And so now I have to look for someone else, because they just went totally off the grid with what I described. I was like, how did that happen, Lord? Okay, let's go back to the drawing board. Maybe I need to be even more detailed. Maybe I need to simplify. And it's like, no, stick to what you see. Don't shift and change what I initially showed you just because that thing or that person could not tap in and bring it to life. There is someone that can bring it to life. You just have to connect, or they have to make themselves available.
Right.
Now that you're searching, they have to make themselves available and know that they can do it with the intricacies that you're asking. And so I've been praying for that. And so, yes, we can't give up. We got to keep going, got to keep pressing. Even if you have to pause and breathe, still keep it moving.
Yes, 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 yes. Lady Fee, listen. Look, I know all too well what you're talking about. Now, I'm going to say this, and this might not apply to you, Lady Fee, but this is just for the atmosphere. You know, sometimes you still have to keep going, even if you ain't got the money, even if you ain't got the people.
Yes.
I look, and Misha knows. Misha knows this because we've talked. So she knows that some things that I've been working on, and she doesn't know about it per se, but she knows the labor intensity of it. And y'all hear me talk about all the time when I say I work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't get a day off. I maybe had the most 3 hours off, and that was because I was, maybe have been not feeling well. But sometimes when I even sleep longer than an hour, it irritates me because I know I got work to do. And that's how you know when you are in a focus, lady, so, when you're in a place of momentum, it's like, especially when you're close to the finish line, you would rather get 2 hours of sleep a day until you see it done, that you're at that place. But I want to just say this. Sometimes this goes back to the different things that we're talking about the laziness, procrastination, self-sabotage, the doubt, how it kills potential friendships, how it blocks future partnerships, is that when sometimes it'll fuel that self-sabotage and that procrastination and the laziness and the doubt, because you're like, oh, well, I ain't got the money, so maybe this ain't God's timing. But the word of God says, occupy until he comes. What is it that you need to do that is at the level of your capability and your capacity that you need to do until he comes with the resources that you need? Because here's the thing. Let's say hypothetically, your vision is to build become the next cake boss, and you're going to build this nationally brand a bakery that has facilities, fulfillment centers all across the United States. But if you have, you're waiting on funding, you're waiting on investors or what have you, but you haven't even built the vision, you haven't worked it, you haven't built your recipes, you haven't come up with it on how to mass produce it instead of just making one cake at a time out of your own oven, what you're doing for your family. You got to know the quantities of the ingredients that go into large drums that is going to produce that product consistently every time. And if you don't know it, so what happens when an investor comes and they're like, okay, well, let me see your plan. Let me taste your product. Let me see let me see your projections. Let me see what it is that you've started, what you built, how much you made so far. And you don't have nothing. You don't have nothing. And so they're like, well, this is a great idea, But in theory, it's a great idea, but you haven't even put anything to work because you haven't even made an attempt. This is why we're talking about failure without attempts. It activates sabotage and increases the spirit of fear. It produces laziness. It enlarges procrastination. It motivates doubt. It kills potential relationships. It blocks future partnerships because you wouldn't even do your part. The part that God has given you the ability to do. Now, I give you some examples of some things that I'm working on. I can't tell you about what I'm working on because I'm in a silent place. I've been in a silent place for this thing for over a year and a half. And the Lord said to me, you can't say nothing until it's done. And I'm like, but God, how am I going to get it done? Because, I need help. Right, Lady Fee? I need help. I need people to come and help me get this thing done because I got this going on and that going on or what have you. And I'm like, God, you're sending midwives. My God, I feel God on the back of my neck. You're sending midwives. This is the first time in my life that I've been this connected to this many wealthy people before in my life that can be potential investors and they can help. They can give me insight. And he's like, nope, you can't say nothing until it's done. I said, then what's the point of bringing me a midwife if they can't help me give birth? I'm literally talking to God like this. Because me and God, we keep it 100. I don't come to God with, Lord, if it be thy will, if you're coming on by here and see about little Timmy, Lord God. No, I keep it 100 because God knows every fiber about who I am because he created me. So I ain't got to come being fake. And I'm like, God, how do I do this? And you bringing the solutions around me. You can't do nothing until it's done. You can't say nothing until it's done. But here's the thing that it's been empowering. Empowering is that because I've been doing it with God and God alone. Not nobody's opinions, not nobody else's insight. And a lot of people's insight or opinions, it will shift you out of focus instead of keeping you online and in target with what the focus is. Because or maybe their envious and jealousy will bring a spirit of sabotage, or bring a spirit to try to sabotage it or to try to kill it, and they become snipers in the spirit, and they become vision killers. So God will put you in a silent place and prevent people from coming connected to you to do it, to help you with it, because you haven't completed your task yet. So I'm like, okay, God, but what do I, I'm trying, I'm working 18 hours a day, God. I'm starting to feel it in my body. I'm starting to, things is happening physically and so on and so forth. Like, Lord, but I'm like, but when I examine the progression of what is taking place from the time of start to where I'm at now, and I'm not at the finish line yet, but I'm real close. I begin to see those hidden talents in me that I didn't even realize was even there. Sometimes we don't even realize the capabilities that we have, or the abilities that we have that's been locked up in us, that this was an opportune moment to birth it out, to bring it forth, for it to be illuminated and enlightened into your life, to know, oh, I didn't even know I knew how to sing. Oh, I didn't even know I knew how to bake. Oh, I didn't even know I knew how to preach. I didn't even know this was in me, but it's been in you from the foundation of the earth. But a certain time and an appointed time and sometimes a certain situation has to come to enlighten it and bring that thing to the surface, or to make you go deeper in you to find it. And so I understand exactly what Lady Fee is talking about, because I'm in it right now. When I'm like, man, I got access, I got connects, I got more so than ever. But the thing about it is that if you watch the show Shark Tank, one of the first things that they want to know about, what do you have invested in it? How much have you put into it? How have you, when did you start and where are you at today? And when they see the sweat equity and the financial investment, or to see that you're all in, then they know that you're trustworthy of somebody that is worth investing into. But sometimes we want to bring people in at the wrong time, and they will come and sabotage and kill it before it can come to its fullest potential. So sometimes we want people to come, and then the God's like, nope, it ain't time yet. And so God is like, nope, you ain't done doing your part. You ain't finished finalizing the vision. Nope, you ain't finished pulling those things out. Nope, you ain't got all the pieces to the puzzle yet. You ain't even written it out. It's still in your head, because when you write the vision and make it plain, he that reads it can run. You ain't even solidified it yet in writing. so that somebody can come alongside of you as a partner to help you to execute what it is that you're trying to do. And so sometimes sometimes God won't bring the money just yet. Sometimes God won't bring the people just yet, or to bring the midwives, or bring the prophetic voices into your life. I was just telling somebody about this today. One of my brothers, I was just telling him just this right before coming on live with y'all tonight. I said, do you know that I've been working on this thing for a year and a half? And I have had in the last 6 months about 30 different prophetic words. And I said, do you know that no one has tapped into the spirit to see it? And see what it is that I'm working on. I said, you know why? Because God ain't allowing it. Because he don't need nobody to have access to or be privy to knowledge of something that he's doing in me in secret. It'll be done openly, but he's doing it in secret. And so he's not having it to be released through prophetic voices. He's not doing it to be people that's tapping into the spirit and seeing it. And he's not. And sometimes that happens because God wants you to cleave only to his voice, only to his instruction, only to his direction, only to his thoughts and his plans that he has towards you, which is of peace and not of evil, to bring you to what? An expected end, right? So that means that he knows the end before the beginning. He knows the way that you should take. He knows all of these things. So he knows that I'm doing this to build your relationship and your trust with me, to know that you got to hinge on me and not the validation of men. I know that's a slap for some of us in here in this room, because we always looking for somebody to back us and to support us and validate us when God is the only person that you need to worry about. If man don't see it, as long as God is before me, he's more than the world against me. I know I'm throwing, paraphrasing and directs of the word of God in the midst of what I'm saying, but I'm saying that some of this happens for a reason. And it happens in a way to draw your connection to him. And what I have learned in this process over the last year and a half, even with some things that I asked for and it came delayed. And I'm like, God, why did it come delayed? Why didn't you get this to me like 6 months ago? Because the people didn't even have what you were looking for. The connect that you was trying to make wasn't even thinking about. And maybe you said something and inquired, and that inspired them to do it. And now you have access to it and be first partakers of it because you came inquiring about it. And that's what's happening for me, at least. And so I'm just saying all that to say this is that even if it doesn't come in the way that you expect. Again, many plans in a man's heart, but it's God's will that prevails. He knows there's so many facets and components and things that go into place of why things happen at the appropriate time and at the opportune time for your life that you would never fully fathom, because you're not God. Because you don't know all of the things, how he had to woo that man or that woman for 6 months to make them even pliable to even embrace you when you came and asked them for funding. And they was a racist the whole time. And God had to send somebody to break and pierce their heart. And then when you came in right at the moment in time, because their heart was softened, they gave you what you're looking for. They gave you what you asked for at the appropriate time. See, we got to understand that it's not always going to be in our timing. It's not going to be always to be what we want it. And sometimes God is going to give you what you asked for, but it's a process for it to manifest. The word of God even said, I heard you the first time, but there was a war going on. I was releasing your answers and your solutions to what you were asking for, but there was a battle going on in the heavenlies. And so I'm releasing, but it's at the appropriate time. And so I'm saying that to encourage you to occupy until he comes. Do the part that you are meant to do. So when he comes, he multiply what's in your hand. What's in your hand, Moses? What is in your hand, widow woman? What do you have? I got a little bit of oil. You got something. But if you got nothing times a billion is still nothing. And if you don't bring something to the table that for God to multiply, because you've occupied, you've worked, you've went and you've taken the talents, the 5 and the 2, and you multiplied it. Now he can give you more because you've shown that you have the ability to be fruitful and multiply. So I'm saying all this to encourage you. Don't get stuck, because we're talking about failure without attempts. We're talking about that. So I'm saying, Don't get stuck because you don't have every piece to the puzzle or have the whole blueprint or have the finances or the people or the resources that you need. Work with what he's given you and watch God expand you. Be faithful over few things and he'll make you ruler over much. But you got to be faithful to something. And I yield on that. Anybody else want to jump in? Apostle, you don't want to tag team on that? I feel you bubbling.
Absolutely. First of all, are you reading the comments? Are you reading the comments?
I did not. I'm sorry. I was in a flow.
Let me just tell you, your comments are, I was just amening, and yes, all I can say is amen. And yes to everything that you have said. It's just, I don't have anything else to say, but if I could throw a shoe, as they would do in the Church of God in Christ back in the day, I just throw a shoe. And that's all I gotta say right now.
You go tap into the Matty Moss Clark anointing.
Yes, sir. For those of you, because I'm looking at who's on the page right now, they millennials, so they don't know nothing about that. But yes, back in the day, we would walk up to the podium and throw a shoe, a fan, a hanky or something to say yes and amen to the man of God. I will just tell you, I am so honored to be in this room, and I've posted it on Facebook and pinged as many people as I know, because this is about purpose. And
yes,
there are very few people who are dedicated to purpose, and I'm so glad to be in this room, because this is what I do. I don't call myself a life coach, but this is what I do as my business. My business is about helping people achieve their purpose, and I'm so glad that Apostle is about the same thing, and this is what this room is about, helping you all know that it's about purpose. We can talk church all day. That's great. We all gonna get to heaven because we love Jesus, but it's nothing about getting to heaven and Jesus is going to ask you, what did you do with your purpose? And so I'm so glad to be in this room and have the opportunity to speak to that. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to throw my shoe at the closet and allow somebody else to speak.
Look, I felt it. I just felt it. And also, I got your back channel if you want to share that after the next person that was just speaking.
Hey everybody, how everybody's doing?
Hey.
Okay, I wasn't gonna say nothing because I got a lot going on, but I feel led to say this. I know me and you have a lot of conversations, outside of Clubhouse. And, one thing I had to learn just yesterday in conversation, I was working on my aunt's obituary. And, sometimes God brings revelation in the worst of times, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that came to me is I have to divorce religious practices that has kept me in lack or in a cycle of that my business is not supposed to be flourishing. I'm not supposed to be as successful because I'm supposed to look at it as a charity, or I'm supposed to be humble and not be in the spotlight and now allowing people to see me like this because, that's me being prideful. And I realized that some of these religious teachings that I've been taught since I was a little child has kept most people in lack and fear of launching, because if I get too big, then maybe I'm being too big for God, or either that or my business or my purpose or my skills are meant to serve the church. So instead of the church paying me for my brand management skills and my marketing and my graphic design, it's meant to bring the church up because God gave me that gift and I'm supposed to use it for his purposes. But then I had to realize in order to be a kingdom financier, I have to make money with the purpose that he gave me. So that's one thing that I have been dealing with, certain things that kind of put me in fear because I didn't want to appear as I'm being disobedient or going against the word of God. But in learning who God really is and studying the word for myself and just, seeing how God is working in people just in the marketplace, I had to realize I had to divorce and unlearn certain things that were taught to me out of ignorance and personal preference. So that'll be something that I would tell people. God wants us to live in abundance. God don't want us to live in lack. And if He gave you that purpose, if He gave you that business, if He gave you that skill, it's to make money off of it. And I've been working on my website, and I thought I would be done by Monday, but in addition to my aunt passing away, my sister's father passed away, and then my cousin just got shot 3 times, and he's on life support. Jesus. So just going back and forth and dealing with my own health issues, God was still pulling on me as I'm working on my website. And He would stop me in mid working on it because He would deal with me with my prices or certain services. He was dealing with me. So I found myself going back and redoing verbiage and changing things. So He just been really dealing with me in my silent time. And I'm loving it. It's a stretch and it's been pulling on me, but I'm absolutely loving it. So if I could tell you anything, is divorce religious practice that keep you in a cycle of lack, and 2, just listen to God because He's still talking.
Yes, indeed. I'm telling you, this is some good stuff. I talk about this all the time about learned behaviors. Sometimes we don't even realize because we hinge on every word of every religious leader as if it does not have fallacy, and we refuse to study out the word for ourselves. Just like the example of the parable about the rich man, we take that so completely out of context that we think that it's harder for a camel to jump through an eye of a needle for a rich man to inherit the kingdom of God. But when you read further down and you look at the conversation between the disciples and Jesus and how he explained about His love or his attachment to the thing instead of leaving the thing to follow Him, that's what makes it harder, because He loved the thing over Him when He was the provider of the thing. And so sometimes we take things out of context, and we've been taught out of context. It didn't mean that you can't have wealth. It didn't mean that portion of the disciples, the apostles, were entrepreneurs. So how is it, including Jesus? He was a carpenter. So how is it that we take certain things out of context to feed our manipulation and control, to keep people in a stagnant place, and don't want to push people to have wealth? I would that you prosper, be in good health, even as your soul prosper. Not just being spiritually soaring, but your health is out of whack, and your finances is crazy. And when you really dissect, where is the most places that the enemy hits you the most? In your health and in your finances, right or wrong. He always hitting somebody in their body, or somebody you connected to, or he hitting you in your body and hitting you in your pockets. And let me show you this. I want you to really examine this. How good do you feel? How good does it shift your spirit when you know you got money in your pocket? Yeah, silence.
I went a whole new person. I got money in my pocket.
But when you broke, you ain't got nothing. It pulls your countenance down. Your faith is lacked, and all that. And it doesn't mean that you have more faith in the money at all, because you know He's the one that provided. But I'm saying that to say this of how the enemy grips us when it comes down to these areas, and what happens when we come to a level of mastery in these areas. Now the enemy got to come a different way. Because he ain't got to come up with a new tactic, because he's been using the same old ones over and over and over again in your life. Because okay, if I hit her in her money, hit him in his money, hit her in her body, hit him in his body, he gonna waver in his faith. He gonna curse God and die, Job. And you're gonna be in the same space instead of like, no. When He gave you power to get wealth, when God owns a cattle on 1,000 hills, and the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, and all that dwells in it belongs to Him. Everything, not only just in the earth, but in universes, in galaxies. He created everything that is in existence, everything. And so if we serve a God that calls us prophets, kings, and priests, then why do we live as paupers? Why do we live sick when we're called to the sick? Why are we poor when we're called to the poor? This is not about a prosperity message. It's about being rich and all that. But how can you go? God, the Lord gave me a word when I was in a 3-month sabbatical, and He says, in one hand I'm placing healing. You will lay hands on the sick and they recover. But in your other hand, I'm placing wealth and wisdom. You will shift poverty in nations. And I say, because I'm called to nations, and that's what the Cash App is up there for, because, you know, as you see my picture change on my profile, you know, I'm campaigning for partners to partner with me to raise money for funding for me going overseas to do mission work in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ghana, and Nigeria, and Pakistan this year. And so, but here's the thing, that's the assignment, right? That's the assignment that I need to fulfill in the earth. But how can I do it broke? It costs money in order to accomplish the things, because money answereth all things, and we live in function in a world of commerce and resource. We can't just go to our light bill company saying, I decree you be debt free in Jesus' name. Sometimes it works. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you can decree it and it will be established, and you get a phone call and you'll be zero balance. It has happened. It has. However, He has given you power to get wealth so that you can take care of your financial obligations and your responsibilities. And we always want to hinge upon a decree and declaring and being in sackcloth and ashes and tallits and praying and hoping that God will do it, because we know that God is a provider. But He also gave you the ability to create the wealth that you need. So we don't always have to hold on to God to do your responsibility, which is to pay your bills on time. Oops, I know that just insulted some people, because we've been taught religiously that, you know, God is going to make a way. Just hold on to God's unchanging hand, and He's never going to leave you, going to forsake you. And then He say, then we call this a scripture that ain't even the word of God. He may not come where He want him, but He always right on time. And I beg to differ. Mary and asked the man of God that was dead, rotting in tomb for 3 days. He came late. Lazarus, he came late intentionally to prove a point that He's God, that He's not governed by your time, because He is an eternal God. He doesn't rule he doesn't rule and function in our time frame. So He will do it late to prove a point that I'm God. And I don't need you to put me into your box of your time clock, because I don't function in that realm. Because of 1 day is to 1,000 years to God. We know this in the word, it's spoken. But here's the thing, we don't realize, because we taking so many religious things out of context, or the word out of context, that we have hinged our lives around it. You know, we took the song, what is it? Lord, don't move the mountain, but give me strength to climb. Lead me all around. No, He said, speak to it. We're trying to find ways to climb up stuff that He told you to speak to it and demolish it, because of the level of power and authority that we have. And we don't realize the fullness of that and the solidness of that, because we had gotten caught up in what somebody told us and we didn't go research it out for ourselves. So I just want, I'm glad, Amisha, you brought that out, because a lot of the times we are being held up based on what Bishop said, what Pastor said, what our father, our mother, what we've been hearing for years, but we won't go search it out. We won't go and study to show ourselves approved. We won't rightly divide the word of truth. We won't even apply the word to our lives to even see if there's truth in what's being said. And so I'm glad you brought that out, because this is a moment for some of us that are struggling in what we have been taught and what we've been shared, that God can demolish those barriers of lies and deception that we received over years, that keep you in bondage and lack of momentum, that keeps you from making attempts. Because you've been taught, don't make a move until your man of God or your woman of God approves it. If God said it, then who else needs to say it? So this is what I'm saying. We get so caught up in. Now, I'm not saying that we dishonor leadership. That's not what I'm saying. But sometimes we don't even realize that we're under people that use manipulation and control to keep you in a stagnant place. And because you have not researched things out for yourself, you can't even see the deception when it's right in front of you. You can't see it because you look at everything as truth. So thank you, Amisha, for sharing that, because this is really important and really essential to being able to make attempts and to move forward and not allow any of these things to disrupt or to limit your progress. Thank you so much. Anybody else want to jump in before we continue on in the other list that I want to go over?
Apostle, I just want to briefly say, I thank God for this room. I know I was in a couple of your other rooms prior to you doing the PHWD, but I think this is only my second time being in the room when you doing PHWD, and I can't even give a bunch of examples right now because you said so much that has applied to my life personally. But what I will say is that I'm thankful for the room and the opportunity that I get to come in, because it always is like a reminder for me of where I am and knowing that I'm on the right path, because I can sometimes be my worst critic. I'll be so quick to acknowledge what I messed up on or what I didn't do right or what shouldn't, what I can get better at or what hasn't happened yet, and I'll sometimes forget to look at where I am or how far I've come. And so in those moments, I'll hear things that you share that you tell us to do, and I'm like, you know what? I've been doing that. You know what? I've been improving over here. Yeah, you know what? He said this. I'm improving over here too. And it's just for me letting me know that it's okay to acknowledge how far you come and not being so, I guess for me, not being afraid to acknowledge my victory. That's been something I've had to be really paying attention to, because I think I was very used to just always putting myself down, even when I know I'm doing okay, but so used to just finding some kind of fault and having to realize and understand that it's okay to say, hey, you know what, you did good over here. You actually succeeded over here. So coming in here to help me do that for myself. So like I said, I would give specific examples, but I would be here a while because you say so much that just applies to where I'm at. But I thank God for your apostle, and I appreciate you.
Absolutely. God be glorified always. And you're always welcome. And I'm glad you were able to come up and share. I'm telling you, this is some stuff that is really needful, because if we don't, it'll set us up. But this goes back to some of the things I say. You got to exercise the word. She just gave you a prime example of that, and she was able to go over her life and say, you know what, this is where I applied this, and this is how it's worked, and this is how it's benefiting me, and I see change in this area, and I'm improving in this area, and that's how it should be. You should be able to apply the word, even the word of God, to your life, or even to make the necessary moves in your life, because sometimes even moving at a snail pace is still momentum. Sloths and snails are some of the slowest moving creatures known to man, but they still move. They're not standing still. But at some point, even making baby steps will get you to the point of walking or having some stronger legs stability. Then you end up doing a power walk. Then the power walk goes into a sprint. Then a sprint into a run. And before you know it, you're running, 100-yard dash or whatever. You're running the race. And you built such a level of momentum, but you have to start. This is why we're talking about failure without attempts. Because if you don't even make the attempt to do it, you're automatically calling yourself a failure. You haven't even made an attempt. So this is why this is really important. Thank you so much, woman of God, for sharing that in that regard. I'm going to go ahead and continue on, and then we're going to come back and open the room back up So I want to kind of keep it going. We're about an hour and 38 minutes in. So I do want to kind of keep it going for a little bit more while longer, or what have you. But I do want to make sure that you have the opportunity to, even if you have questions or any other things that you want to share, or what have you, I do want you to be able to engage, especially for those of you in the listening lounge. You are definitely welcome to come up. But I'm going to go on into the next one. So the last one we spoke about, just to quickly recap of all the ones we went over: failure without attempts activates the self-sabotage. Failure without attempts increases the spirit of fear. Failure without attempts produces laziness. Failure without attempts enlarges procrastination. Failure without attempts motivates doubt. Failure without attempts kills potential relationships. Failure without attempts block future partnerships. Now, partnerships and relationships are not necessarily exactly the same, because partnerships can be based on marriage or dating relationships, but also business partnerships, or somebody coming alongside of you to help you execute what it is that you're doing, or you come alongside them to help them execute what they're doing. Failure without attempts, which is the next one that we're going to talk about next. Failure without attempts confirms lack of confidence. I'll say that again for you to write it down. Failure without attempts confirms lack of confidence. When you won't make an attempt, there is something in you that makes you that acknowledges that you're not confident in yourself to get it done, that you don't have the capabilities, or you feel that you don't have the capabilities. Let me say that correctly, because I don't want to say that incorrectly. But you feel that you don't have the capabilities or the talents to, or the know-how to get it done. And so you don't know who you are. You don't have, or you're not solid in who you are, or you haven't even fully accepted that this is who God has made you to be. And so when you're not solid in that, and you're not resolute in that, you lack confidence in who you are. I talked about this in a men's conference, a men's conference that I was a keynote speaker in, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before last. And the topic was entitled Men Walking in Power, Dominion, and Authority. And so I'm just going to kind of go over something with this really quick, because this not only applies to men, this applies to everybody. What have you, men and women walking in dominion, power, and authority. And power, by definition, says the ability to do something or to act in a particular way, especially as a facility or a faculty or quality. I'm sorry, I said that incorrectly. The capacity or ability to direct or influence the behaviors of others, or a course of events. Dominion, by definition, is the sovereignty or control of a territory, or a sovereign or king or government leader, a government leader. Sovereignty, by definition, means to be a supreme. Sovereignty means supreme power or authority. Then authority, by a definition, means the power or the right to give orders, make decisions, to enforce obedience to a person or organization having power or control in a particular or typically political or administrative sphere. Then I also gave definitions about kings, and this also applies to women as well, because he said prophet, kings, and priests. He did not solidify the difference between a king or a queen, and because in reference, it's always sons, kings, but it encompasses the whole. It's not gender specific. So it is a ruler or of an independent state. Especially one who inherits a position by right of birth. Kingship, a state, a position of being a king. Kingdom, by definition, is a country, state, or territory ruled by a king or a queen. Now, I gave all these definitions for this reason. about moving in power, dominion, and authority. The first thing that I said, in order for you to understand how to move in dominion, power, and authority, and a lot of the definitions that I gave you was redundant. They sound very similar in context with a little bit of differences, but they all have similarities. So, so when I said, when I broke this down, I said, who are you? Do you know who you are? You cannot move in dominion, power, and authority. You cannot rule and reign in a specific area or a focus if you don't know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, you don't know what your assignment is or the vision is for your life, and you don't know what your purpose is. Purpose and assignment is not always the same. Assignment can be something that is momentarily, that is something that is fulfilled in a moment. But purpose is something that is with you before the foundations of the earth, and it can grow and evolve over time. Those are two different aspects, but they do kind of work hand in hand, because you have to know what your purpose is in order to fulfill your assignment. Does that make sense? So so all of that to say this, if you lack confidence in yourself because you don't know who you are, you don't know what your assignment is, and you don't know what your purpose is, you cannot have dominion, power, and authority. Is it clicking? Does it make sense? You cannot rule and govern in the area that God has given you authority in if you don't know who you are, you don't know whose you are, meaning belong to God, you don't have confidence in yourself, you don't know your assignment, and you don't know your purpose. And so all of these are important, because if you lack confidence in yourself, the enemy can say, yeah, you fat, yeah, you ugly, yeah, you can never amount to nothing. So you ain't worthy. You ain't qualified. You ain't never going to be nothing because your daddy wasn't nothing. Your mama wasn't nothing. Your mama was a whore. Your daddy was a pimp. He was a crackhead. She was a prostitute. All this, and he feasts on, he plays on your mind to beat you down, to give you low self-esteem, to make you feel that you're not worthy and anointed and qualified for the task or for the purpose of God over your life, because you lack confidence. And when you lack confidence, then you're definitely not going to make no attempts to do anything, because you don't believe that you can do it. So when you fail to make attempts, it literally confirms the lack of confidence that you have within yourself, because you don't know who you are, or you're not clear on it, or you're waiting for somebody to come along to validate it, to lay hands on you, to say, oh, you're by man's standard, you're qualified. But like I said, if God is before you, he's more than the world against you. And so if God called you to be a prophet, God called you to be an evangelist, a pastor, a teacher, an apostle, he's called you to be an entrepreneur, he's called you to be gifted in arts, he's called you to be what he's made you to be, why is it that you're so concerned about what man has to say about it? Because you become codependent upon man to validate what God said, instead of God validating what he said from the first time he told you. From the first time. And man will only come and confirm what has already been said. Now, again, let me clarify this, because sometimes we hinge upon thinking that God has to speak to you first before he confirms it through his prophets. That's not always true. That's not always true. However, there is something that's in you that will resonate to you in what's being said, because you're beginning to understand who you are, and it's a light bulb moment. And even if it's not a light bulb moment, God, never leaves himself without a witness. He's always a confirmer of his word, and he will send somebody or something, or some way, somehow, something will validate what was being said or what God has already enlightened you about that you might be running away from. And so again, if you have lack of confidence in yourself, you're not going to make an attempt into your purpose, health, and wealth, fulfilling what it is that you're meant to be in the earth. You won't walk in dominion, power, and authority. You won't even understand the fullness of it. I gave this also as an example in that conference, and I said, when you have confidence in yourself, and you know who you are, you know your assignment, you know your purpose, you know where God has given you dominion, power, and authority, does not mean that you have dominion, power, and authority in every area and every aspect. I gave the example about the Queen of England. The Queen of England can come over here to America, kick our president out of the Oval Office, and say, I'm going to rule as queen in this land. We recognize her as a part of the monarchy, as far as part of royal blood, as far as the royal family, and we honor her when she comes over here, but that she does not have power, dominion, and authority to rule and reign and govern in this land because she's not acknowledged as the Queen of America. Does that make sense? And so when you understand who you are, you're able to make the attempts and to be solid and to go on and continue moving. But when you lack confidence in yourself, it fuels the self-sabotage, it fuels the spirit of fear, the laziness, procrastination. All these things are intertwined if you're not seeing it. All these things are intertwined, and one influences and it can cause the other to even manifest in your life. And so again, if you lack confidence, you're going to have the failure to make attempts. It's going to fuel that. It's going to acknowledge that. It's going to illuminate that. So we got to deal with that. You got to allow God to deal with that in your life. And sometimes it's a you thing that has to acknowledge what it is. And maybe you might have to speak to someone or even get counseling to find out what is it that happened in your life that somebody said to you that make you have a lack of confidence. Because and I said this last week, we have crate and barrels of traumas and issues that it's filled up our hearts and our minds of what people have said about us and what people have done to us, that when Jesus is trying to come into your heart, he doesn't have space to come in because you have hoarded these things in your heart so much that he only got 5 paces to walk in from the door, and he's literally claustrophobic with all these crates and barrels in your life. And I'm not talking about the store. I'm talking about what is hidden in the chambers and the layers in your heart. And so we got to, God has to go in and to be masterful and to do surgery and to open up this and to go and clean out all the chambers in the areas of your heart where these things have been a factor to cause you to have lack of confidence, or maybe nobody never told you that you was good enough. It was just never told that you could do better or you can have more. But you can be whatever you want to be. But sometimes it doesn't matter that if I say it. If there's something that's in your heart that you're filtering what I'm saying through, then you're going to filter the truth through the lie. And the lie is whatever that builds that lack of confidence in you to not believe that you're worthy and qualified for what God is trying to do in your life. So I can't even go on. I want to hear what you all have to say about this, because this one probably we might have to do a part 3, but I think this one is really, really significant that we really can't just blow past this one. And I think this is really going to be significant to some people getting some freedom and some healing today because of that lack of confidence in knowing who you are. So anybody want to jump in? Any popcorn style? Anybody want to contribute?
I have a question. What would you say, or how would you advise a response to those who are trying their best to be an encouragement, but their words are killing the confidence? Because sometimes people have great intentions, but because of, and even though their intentions are good, what's coming out of the enemy is using what's coming out of their mouths and their critiques to further damage the confidence that's on the inside. So how would you handle that?
Okay, so I'm going to deal with it on both sides. I'm going to deal with it on the side of the person that's doing the critiquing or giving the advice. When we have to have natural discernment and we have to have discerning of spirits, which is a gift of the spirit. Natural discernment is something that is an innate ability that you have or what have you. And, some things you can just read by body language. You can feel a vibe or what have you. That's for those of you that don't have a relationship with God at that level. That's something that you just have. You know when something is about to go wrong. You know when somebody's cheating on you. You feel it in your gut. That's an innate ability that God has given us. But there is a spiritual gift that is discerning of spirits, and if you do not use that in your tool of ministry, then what you can be saying can be hurtful to the person. but then hurtful to the person. And so you do have to be mindful in your approach. But then on the other side to that as well, for the person that's speaking, that sometimes people can't be patty caked because that's what kept them where they are. And so sometimes, so sometimes you have to be a little abrasive, and sometimes you have to be sweet. Sometimes you just got to know how to pivot, and you have to know how to shift, and you got to know how to read a room and an atmosphere as well, or an individual. So that's on that side. On the person side that's receiving, it goes. One of the things I want to just reiterate what I just mentioned is about the filter. You can be, because you've been beat up. So let's say you've been verbally abused, and everybody has always called you this and whatever, and so on and so forth. And when somebody comes to you and say, you're beautiful, you are wonderful, you are really anointed, you are really gifted, but then through the lens or the filter of the lies of what has happened to you in your times past, you're filtering it through you saying that, but you must got a motive, or maybe you really interested in me, or you just really saying that, but what you really mean is, and you trying to read between the lines when the lines is very clear. There's nothing to read in between. It's very direct, and sometimes it's not just on the opposite, on the person that's trying to help, and the way it's being said is perceived the wrong way. But sometimes it's also the person that is doing the perceiving that is filtered through those crate and barrels that I mentioned before. So it's the work has to happen on both sides. The person that's talking has to use the discernment and know how to work with people and to build that level of a relationship. I'll use me as an example, as one of my mentees that I used to mentor, or what have you. She, well, actually, two people that I mentored, because they were so used to being beat down, they couldn't decipher the difference between somebody giving them tough love, or pushing them forward, versus somebody beating them, and they couldn't because they were so used to being beaten, they didn't know the difference. And so when we had a conversation, I said, here's how you can know the difference between somebody that's trying to beat you versus somebody that's trying to help you. What is the end goal of the end intent? Is the end goal to help get you healed? Is it help, motivate you to say, come on, you can do this business, you can do this ministry, come on. And yes, it's pulling you out of that comfortability, and it's challenging you. So it's just like when you go to the gym and you want to lose weight. A drill sergeant or a what do you call it? Lord, what are they called? Personal trainer. They're not going to be like, okay, sweetheart, are you ready today? Or, we, came in a little late, or what have you, do you need a little moment to take a breather? Okay, now take about 15 minutes, go take a breather, and then let's get straight, because their time is of the essence. For one, they got other people on their time. And they know that if they talk to you in a place where you're comfortable, you're not going to get the results that you're looking for. And so sometimes that is needed, but it's at the appropriate time. So you got, it's so many, that part is layers to it. But then on the opposite end too, when you have, that's why I said, somebody can be telling you you're beautiful, you're smart, you're intelligent, you smart, you is kind, you is important. But if you don't see it, if you allow these filters to filter in, I can talk to I'm blue in the face, and you will take it as a gut punch. You get what I mean? So even in that, sometimes you have to acknowledge too, when the person is speaking to you to help you, that I have been through some stuff. Sometimes you do have to take a risk and really listen in and know the difference, that a person is really trying to love you and to help you advance, and not really trying to beat you up. And so that's why I say, look at the difference between discern the difference between, are they really what's the intent behind it? Are they really trying to hurt me, or are they really trying to help me? And that's something that's real, that can be very clear. No, you ain't ready enough. You're not anointed enough. You got to sit. You ain't called yet, so you got to wait. But then when you're waiting, are they helping you to get to where you need to get to? You're still stuck. Now I see you got your foot on my neck. But if the person said, no, you're not ready yet to do this, but I'm going to work with you to help you get there. And they begin to pull on you. Okay, let's study the word of God. Okay, where are you at in your life's journey, life's journey with God? Okay, that area we need to do deliverance with. We need to pray. And yes, it's challenging you, but it's helping you. That's how you can discern decipher the difference between the two versus somebody that's trying to be hurtful versus somebody that's being abrasive but to help you because they're not trying to patty cake you. Does that make sense? I know I said it a long way, but did that answer your question?
Almost. But I'll work with it. Thank you.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I said almost, but I'm working with it. Thank you.
Got you. And if we need to get more in depth with that, Carlos, you already know. You can call me and we can get more in depth into it. Go ahead, Lady P.
Yes, sir.
This is something that I work with people on in coaching and counseling, and something that God taught me a long time ago, and that is how to clean and change your filter. Because the most anointed of us, and he showed it to me, how the flies get in the ointment, how our oil as anointed ones gets contaminated, not even willingly, just as we go about ministering, as we go about living, as we go about life. We pick up, if you look at oil, it picks up dirt and dust along the way. Not because it wants to, but it attracts it by default. And so then we have to let God take us through a process of cleaning and or changing our filter. What does that mean? That means that he begins to change our mindsets from the things that we learned and we picked up along the way in childhood, as we were raised, as we were growing up, as we had friends and loved ones in our lives. And then he goes, this is the truth, this is a lie. Buy the truth, sell the lie. And we shall know the truth, and the truth shall make us free. And that's part of the process. So as he changes our mind from the fleshly, the worldly way of thinking, and as we discover, wait a minute, I picked that up. I don't believe that anymore. Or that worked for a time and a season in my life, but now that's not working for me anymore, or it doesn't apply to me anymore. And so we have to remove that thing from our thinking, from our doing, from our being, and replace it with the truth of the Word of God and the truth of the matter. Because the truth doesn't fail. It will remain the same no matter what.
Indeed. Wow. Clean your filter. Woo, this is some good stuff. Anybody else want to jump in?
Apostle, I wanted to kind of elaborate on what you were saying about addressing certain components and things from, your past and your childhood. And I can definitely say a major part of my journey was really dealing with mental health and those things, because they do play a part. Because when it comes to your confidence level and things like that, and trying to get to the bottom of why you're not as confident in one area, sometimes you have to go back that far, because it's kind of one of those things where if you don't deal with it now, it'll kind of deal with you later.
Yes.
And by the time later comes, you out there in the open, and people are not nice. And people will smile at you one minute and laugh and throw dirt on you the next. And sometimes, rejection is a part of rejection can still be a part even of the success, because everyone is not going to necessarily accept what you have to offer, which is part of why finding your audience, your demographic is key. But being prepared for whatever challenges come is what you're called to do. It all starts with how you feel about yourself first. And what I know for myself, just talking about me, I used to get frustrated because I was like, well, why can't I
Why does it seem like my opportunities are only going so far? And how come my name ain't out there? How come I don't have 1,000 followers, or I'm not popular in this group over here? And over time, the Lord helped me see, well, if you would have gotten all of that popularity and attention and all of that back then, you wouldn't have been able to handle the downfall that would have came of it when all of your issues that you hadn't dealt with yet showed up.
Yeah.
And so when I've made my mistakes, when I've had my moments where a trigger came, or I got upset, or I overreacted, or I took something the wrong way, I was at least able to do it behind closed doors. I wasn't on an open platform at the time. And so now I'm in a place where it's not that I don't desire more exposure, but I don't even look at the exposure the way that I once did. I say, Lord, I'm thankful for the hiding. I'm thankful for you even in what you're doing with me and the opportunities that you're opening for me. I don't question or doubt what you're doing because it doesn't get a great response right away. I'm trusting that if I don't have the followers, if I don't have the large number of clientele just yet, it's because there's still some things behind closed doors that you're still doing in me. You're preparing me for that level of exposure, because with that comes responsibility.
Yes.
With that comes a level of maturity that sometimes we can think we have it, but God loves us so much that He won't let us just talk ourselves into something that we're not ready for and then get shamed. He say, listen, you're going to have it, but let's deal with these things. And so part of that process for me was getting to the bottom. Why wasn't I confident? What has kept me from fully seeing myself the way that He does? And I can say that I'm thankful for the journey. I'm still growing. I mean, I think you'll probably see that with me just in a short time that you know me. I'm not perfect, but I can definitely say that I've come a long way, and I like getting to that place just makes you appreciate it even more, and it keeps you from ever feeling like you failed. It was all for a reason. It's nothing that I have to look back and have regrets about. I can just understand that it was all for a purpose. So with that, I use my mic.
Indeed, absolutely. Just even to what she was saying, she was asking Lord, why haven't this happened, and why haven't me, getting the notoriety or getting the, these relationships, why is it not happening this way? And sometimes the reason for the delay is because He has to deal with certain things that's going on in you first before He can allow the expansion to take place. Because if He allows it to take place now, those issues or proclivities or the areas of deliverance and the healing that you need to take place will enlarge when you get to the place that you're asking for. And then that thing can possibly take you out. Do you know how many times it's been that people that have gotten notoriety and gotten to a place of destiny, and that thing, it wasn't the blessing of the Lord make it rich and added no sorrow. It actually brought sorrow. And some people have actually committed suicide because they could not handle the pressures of the scrutiny that comes with being on platforms, or the slander and the lies and the backlash and the warfare and all this stuff that comes with it. People look like, you're an apostle, you get to go and minister and this and whatever, but you have absolutely no clue. Unless you walk half a block in my shoes, you will never understand the level of warfare and the level of suffering and how much loss and how much having to rebuild and having people walk away from you and having to cut off people, and people that you trusted and supported for years were actually hitting assassins, and the list goes on. And the list goes on. And so we look at it and think it's the fabulous life, and it's actually it comes with its challenges. I'll say it in the nicest way. It comes with its challenges, and if you don't deal with those things or allow God to deal and to heal those areas of your life, those things will take you out later. But here's the thing, even about God. Where God tells us not to cast our pearl before swine, right? But why do we think that God is going to do the same thing? God is not going to put you in a situation that you're going to devalue or not understand the potential of the thing that he's putting you in. And so he will delay so that you get it right. I think I said this last week. I don't know if I said this in this room, or maybe I had it with a conversation. There's been so much, my days are running together, I can't even keep up. But I was saying how that I've had instances where God had put me in a temporary holding pattern. It wasn't a setback, it wasn't a delay, it wasn't a cycle, it was a holding pattern because I was not passing the test. It's like being in school. When you're in school, you have to pass your exams, you have to pass your assignments, you got to get a certain level of grade to prove that you're worthy for the next level, for the next grade. And if you don't pass, you're being held back, and you're going to either have to do a half a semester or you're going to have to do a full year. And you're going to have to do whatever you need to do in order to graduate to the next phase. And when God has invested in you, because he's the master investor, he knows all of the potential that he has on the inside of you, and he wants a return on his investment. And so if he knows where he's taking you next is going to be great, he'll put you in that holding pattern, and then, okay, oops, I slipped up, I cursed. Oop, I slipped up, I watched porn, I masturbated. Oop, I slipped up and I got myself in an entanglement. Oop, I slipped up and I slept with this person. Oop, and I made a mistake. And it's not that he's giving you grace to continue in sin. No, that's not what this is about. Sometimes he'll do it to get you to see, and I wish my brother was on here. He said this in his book, Prophet Kevin. He said, when you get to the point that you love God more than you love the sin, and when you get to the place that whatever that thing that is holding you, whether it's not always just sin, it can be traumas, it can be unforgiveness, it can be a plethora of things, but he will allow you to be in this holding pattern so that you get it right. And he'll be like, okay, nope, all right, well, we'll try again next week. And then, you slipped up again. Okay, we'll try again in a month. You ain't ready. You ain't ready. And he will redeem the time, but he will have you in a place, in a holding pattern, because he's invested so much more in you. Now, let me have a moment of transparency. I'm gonna keep it raw, and I'm gonna keep it 100 with you right now. Do you know, because I know that I'm getting close to the finish line, and I know that I'm not willing to risk anything. Do you know that the things that have been some of my greatest temptation has been in my face the strongest for the last 2 weeks? The strongest. But there has to be a mindset that you have that I'm not yielding to temptation. I'm not allowing this thing to get the better of me because I'm too close, and I'm not going to find myself constantly on this merry-go-round of life. No, absolutely not. No, I'm not going to let this person push my buttons and make me curse you out. Nope, you ain't even worth it. My future and my destiny is too bright for you to have me to go back, to be set back 20 more months, a whole year, a whole 5-10 years, because you want me to what? Release a momentary moment and have sex with you, or watch some porn and bust one? Are you serious? Absolutely not. And when you get to the point that you love God more, like he said, than you love the issue or the sin or whatever that trauma is that keeps you in that holding pattern, or that keeps you in those cycles, God will have you to go through that moment to say, okay, we're gonna take this test over again. And we're gonna do some pop-up quizzes, and we're gonna do some exams, and we're gonna do whatever we need to do to get you to graduate, because he's invested too much in you. He's invested too much in you. And so I'm using me as an example for that, because you got to understand, that you can't, sometimes we just get comfortable and just say, oh, okay, well, I just missed it. And I used to do that. Do you know how many doors that I have allowed to pass by me because I indulged in something that I shouldn't have? And I'm thinking, okay, well, God is merciful. He'll allow it to come back around again. And sometimes they have never come back around. And it's cost me setback. And so, so I said all that to say this is that because he's trying to graduate us to the next level, he cannot allow the thing or things that has been in you for so long to tarnish where he's trying to take you next. Because if you don't, it will only amplify that thing. I talked about this many times in the room when it amplifies. If you got a thing about drugs, that you could get you a little dime bag or get you a little nickel bag, and you smoke that little crack or you smoke that little blow, or you get the little the Percocets, you get, smoke that little weed. When you get more money, you get more access. So now you ain't going to your little local drug dealer. You're going to people that get the stuff that the drug dealers go buy it from. You go get it pure, because the drug dealers, they're lacing it, they're adding to it, they're stretching it so they can get more money out of it. But now you going to go to get the pure stuff, and then it's just going to continue to grow and amplify and grow and amplify, and God won't even allow it to happen. So that's when you start seeing delays happening in your life, is because there's something that is still there that he's trying to kill. He's trying to kill. And once he kill it, and you submit to allowing him to kill it, then you're going to begin to see things shift and flourish and evolve. But it doesn't mean that you're not going to be tested again. The test's going to come. It's going to come. But when you decide, absolutely not, I'm not even interested. No, thank you. I'm not even entertaining the thought. And so that's what I'm saying. These are just really important, that, when you acknowledge those things, even and you're making those adjustments, like the woman God was mentioned, you're making the adjustments so that God can evolve you, and you're making those steps. This is really, 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 really good stuff. I am loving this. Anybody else want to jump in? And for those of you that are coming in, we are just to reset really quick. We're talking about failures without attempts, and right now we're on number 7, which is failure without attempts confirms lack of confidence. And so we're just talking about the lack of confidence, and how that can influence you not making attempts to move in your purpose, your health, and your wealth, or to accomplish what it is that God is doing in your life. Anybody else want to jump in?
That confidence piece is so important. I think for myself, I'll say for myself, I was taught that confidence was arrogance and conceitedness. And that was part of the filter that God had to wash and clean and change for me, because he had to show me the difference between confidence that he gave me, confidence that I gave myself, and that came from the accolades and praises of other people, and then arrogance and conceitedness, and where they all had a root, where their root was. And conceited and arrogance, that part comes from pride. That part comes from fear of failure, fear of asking for help, fear of depending on others, fear of rejection, and so on and so forth. And then as he began to show me that it was important that the piece to confidence was self-love, because when I love myself in a healthy way, and allow God to love me and allow others to show love to me, then God can direct me into the spaces and places with other people, and I'm not concerned about the things that they bring to the table. I'm concerned about my bag and what I got in my bag that he gave me, that I bring to the table, knowing that what he gave me, bringing it to the table is going to help enhance or even project somebody else into the place that they need to be. But first I had to love me and be confident in the confidence that he gave me in order to even step to the table, to step in the room, to sit at the table, to bring all that he had gave me in the first place.
Indeed. Good stuff. This is really, really some good stuff. Absolutely. Anybody else want to jump in? Good to see you on the stage, woman of God. Nina, thank you so much for coming up. Again, we're talking about that failure to attempts. It basically illuminates or confirms the lack of confidence. Um, just to reset for those that are just coming in, I mentioned about how when you don't have confidence in yourself and you lack confidence in yourself, you won't even make an attempt to what it is that you're meant to do because you don't know who you are, you don't know what your assignment is, and you don't know what your purpose is. And you can't rule in dominion, power, and authority until you have clarity of those things. And once you have clarity of those things, then it builds that confidence. It's the difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence is an assurity of knowing who you are, but arrogance is usually, and I'm not giving it from a definition standpoint, but usually are people that have something to prove. They feel like, they got to prove who they are. They got to make sure, I'm the chief apostle, I'm the man of God, I'm the woman of God, and you got to be highly esteemed, and you have this illusion of grandeur. But when you are secure in yourself, that regardless of anybody that does not see you or identify you, you are solid, and you don't need it. You don't need the recognition. You don't need any of that. But you know who God has called you to be, and you're able to walk in dominion, power, and authority. So, and you don't have fear of making attempts because you know who you are. So that's basically what we were talking about, to bring you up to speed for those that are just coming in. But anybody else want to jump in? And for those of you in the listening lounge, you are truly welcome to come up. I'm going to go ahead and invite you guys back up again if you want to come up, so you don't have to raise your hand. But you are welcome to join and be a part of the conversation. It's popcorn style, so anybody want to chime in, you are welcome.
God bless you, man of God. How are you?
I am wonderful. It's been a long time, my friend.
Yes, I got a new phone and just I don't know. I wasn't led to download it again until tonight.
Wow.
But, right. Thanks be to God for being here and being back, and bless the Lord for all of you who are on the stage. But I had to say this, and then I'm going to go because I have a live that I have to do in a minute. I pastor two churches in Michigan, one in a city called Inkster, and then another one on the east side of Detroit. And they've been trying to make me bishop and overseer and, all that stuff I don't need. And when I heard you say that tonight about being confident in who God called you, I realized that as I began to walk this walk, when God started telling me to open up these different locations, because we're getting ready to do one in Houston, Texas. We have one going in Lansing. Just, fresh oils just being opened across the country. And I'm not doing it because I need recognition. I'm not doing it because I need my name to be in lights. I'm doing it because souls are lost.
Yes.
And there are millions of people that the Bible says there's 10,000 souls that have never bowed to Baal. No man can work.
Yes.
So the work is what's important, not the title that goes along with it. So I just want to encourage somebody today to get involved in the work.
get involved in doing the ministry that's important to God. And the idiosyncrasies of life. I spent almost 2 years after my husband died in a relationship with somebody that I felt was supposed to be. I was supposed to be in it. I was supposed to have him. I was supposed to indulge in this because I knew my husband didn't want me not to have anybody. I knew he didn't need me without a friend. And the Holy Spirit of God had to tell me, get the hell out of this because this was not my will. And the idiosyncrasies that we find ourselves indulging in are the very things that are keeping us out of the presence of God.
Yes.
And I tell you how important it is for us to stay focused on the voice, because if you don't hear the voice, you get disconnected from the voice and you get disconnected from the Father. And the voice will always speak to you the truth. It will always tell you. My father used to say, he was a pastor for 54 years. He said, Nina, God always speaks first, the other fellow speaks next. So when you hear the voice of God, obey it, and it will purge all of the ungodly things out of our spirit, out of our lives. So I'm going to release the mic, but I just wanted to share that part about them wanting to make me, on Mother's Day, they're going to consecrate me overseas, I believe it is. But I have no desire for it, and I don't know if that's an humble thing or if it's a nigga please thing.
Listen, woman of God.
I will say that whichever one it is, I need you all to pray my strength, because at this point, all I see is the work of God. I don't see titles, because he said unless you come as one of these little ones, you're not going to enter anyway. So that title will never go to heaven. My God.
Indeed.
And so I just need you all to pray with me and pray for me. And I love you, man of God. Bless you.
You as well. I'm telling you, sometimes, I'm glad you brought that out, because sometimes man wants to put something on you that God didn't even ordain or didn't even qualify or even biblical. And so sometimes we just give people titles and positions to appease or to make them feel something or to make them feel belonged. But what did God call you? He called you from the foundations of the earth. I say your office or your purpose is ingrained in your DNA. You do it even when you don't even know that you're doing it. You were even doing it before you even came into the knowledge and the understanding of Christ. And he began to unlock in you who he made you to be. And when you begin to look over your past history, you begin to see the connection. Like, I was already kind of doing something like that when I was not saved, or I was always the life of the party. I was always drawing people. I was always, covering people and they always sharing their innermost secrets. And I was always being a pusher and a developer and you're already doing it because it's ingrained in you, because when you came into an identity, it just illuminated the thing that was already in progress, but then it begins to grow and expand. Before you go, woman of God, I was talking about earlier about when you lack confidence, you don't understand, who you are, what your purpose is, and what your assignment is to move in dominion, power, and authority. And I said, when you know who you are and know where you rule and reign in the position or in the level of authority that God has given you, then you can move in dominion, power, and authority in the space where God is giving you grace. And I gave the example about how the Queen of England can't come over here to America, kick our president out the office, and say, I'm ruling as queen here in this country. You don't have authority here. We recognize your level of authority as queen in England, but you do not rule and reign in America, or you don't rule and reign in other countries that you are not with a treaty that we accept your monarchy as governing and ruler in this nation or in this country. And so when you understand who you are, sometimes we take on offices, we take on titles, we take on things that people have spoken over us, and we find out we can't function in dominion, power, and authority because God didn't grace you for that area. Yeah. So We got to realize so that's why I said, when you know who you are and you don't lack confidence, and you know who you are through God, not through what man says, but what God has said, building that relationship with the Father so that he can begin to reveal and unveil to you what he's called you to and what he's made you to be and what he's designed and what he's cultivating you to be before the foundations of the earth. Then you will have clarity of understanding of who you are. Before I was an apostle, I'll have people, you're going to be a bishop because I was under a bishop. You're going to be an apostle because you're under an apostle. You're going to be a pastor because you're under a pastor. Like, really? But what is God saying? What is God saying? So I'm not mad at you, woman of God. And look, and if God tells you, if he say, nope, this ain't it, then you ain't got to accept what man say, just because they're trying to put you in something to for the illusions of grandeur, for whatever reason that they're doing it. And I'm not saying this for you to make that decision, but I'm just saying we have to be mindful of that, because sometimes people will speak something over you without it not being what God said. I'm sorry, go ahead, Pastor. Did you want to say something?
I realize that where I'm going in ministry is beyond titles.
Yes.
Where God is calling me is past the man's stamp. And it's not that I don't think, I believe it's a blessing, and I thank God for it, that they found me or they deemed me worthy for it. But at the same time, I don't want to get caught up in it.
Right.
I want it to become who I am, because I was who I was before they. All I want to do is be saved. I just want to really be saved.
Yes.
I'm talking about what I heard you say about all of these hidden sins and all of these hidden agendas that we have. Because we're wonderful, spiritual, and powerful in people's presence when we have an audience. But when there's no audience and it's just us, and we realize that we're nothing, I'm just a whole thing by grace, sweetie. So when I come back to my real self, I just want to be saved. I want to be in a position where I can hear God's voice, where I can obey his spirit, where I can walk sensitive to what it is he's saying to the world. Because we're in the world is sick. And none of us, it seems like, are hearing from God for the world. We're hearing from God for our individual ministries. And that's why I was kind of turned off. Because I don't care about that. How many souls did we get today, this week? How many people came to Christ? How many people received the baptism of Holy Ghost? Because if nobody's being saved, if those souls are being won, then guess what? Ain't nothing being done.
Yes.
We're just going through the motions. So I appreciate them seeing and married that in me, but I don't want to be caught up in it.
Right.
I don't want it to become what's important, because trust me, I'm still struggling with learning how to just be saved. So
we all working it out.
Exactly. I don't need, because every level, that saying, every level comes a new devil. I don't need no more. I've been fighting these. When you start talking about that cycle, we keep going through the same things over and over again. I can't pass this test. And I can't pass the test because I'm not really taking the test. Because I'm so accustomed to failure, I refuse to even take the test the second time or the third time. I just keep failing. I just keep falling into the same cycle because I already feel in my mind I'm not going to pass. So why take? Here it is. God is trying to get us to a place where we not only take the test, but become the tester. When are we going to get to a place where now I have conquered these demons?
Yes.
So now let me turn around and help my brother. Let me turn around and help my sister. Now I might not have conquered those demons, but I definitely got them. Because there are some that have been repetitious in our lives, and it's not because the enemy is so strong, it's because our desires for it is so strong. We sometimes are the persons that draw. It's just like the people you draw into your circle in the natural. You don't deal with certain type of people on the natural because they're not at your level. They're not mentally where you are. They're not spiritually where you are. They're not financially where you are. So, no. I'm not, no. But when it comes to our spiritual walks, we keep gravitating to what's familiar because I can keep fighting this spirit because I've been fighting this spirit. Never wanting to grow to the next level because if I can conquer, the Bible says, he said, after you receive, after the Holy Ghost has come upon you, then you shall have what? Power.
Yes.
And you get power to tread. Now, why am I treading over the same spirit over and over again? Because I'm afraid to allow the next one. Like I don't have the power. It's like that. This power ain't strong enough for that power. This strong power is not strong enough for that level. But what God is saying is that I've given you power, period. And the power is what you use as when in the dunamis, it becomes dynamite. And when you take the dynamite, anything you put dynamite in or do, it explodes it. So the power that you have is for every spirit. It's for every level. And that's what I had to say to myself. You don't want this not because you don't think that you're worthy of it. You don't want it because you don't want what comes along. You don't want to put the fight down. You've gotten to a place where you're comfortable, and now you don't want to fight no more.
Wow.
Because I've had to fight. I'm like Seeley. I didn't have to fight my whole life.
Had to fight my uncles. Had to fight my cousins.
And I'm tired of fighting. So when you put something on, you take on another hat, you take on another coat, you take on another anointing, then you know that you have to take on another level of fight.
Yes.
But when the Holy Spirit had begun to speak to me, he said, it's time to fight. You lazy hunt, get up and fight. Stop being encumbered with what you've already learned how to conquer. I'm encumbered with what I've already conquered because I'm accustomed to being encumbered. And instead of me learning how to fight on the next level, I'd rather not have it. I don't want that.
Yeah.
So that's why I know that the prayer that I need from the saints is so that I will be ready. Because I don't play with this.
Yes.
I'm not going to say, oh my God, I can't wait. Oh yeah, I can wait. Even though I see God thrusting me, I'm still in resistance. And that's how we become in the body of Christ. We resist what God is trying to get us to conquer. Oh, glory. I'm done, man. God, I didn't come to take over your lunch.
No. You right in the vein. You don't even understand a lot of the things that you're saying. I was talking about earlier about this apostolic call as an apostle. We think that it's so glamorous and you get all this notoriety and you get all this name recognition and that that you're highly esteemed and you get honorariums and all that, but people don't recognize the warfare that comes with it. But here's the thing, and I'm glad you brought all of that out, because it still deals with the lack of confidence of what we're talking about. So everything you're saying is in the vein. So when now I want to use this as an example. I'm not singling you out, woman of God, at all. So I want you to want y'all to hear what I'm saying, because she brought out something that's really, really significant, and I want to enlighten the moment. She was saying that she didn't want to do certain things because of how much it was going to do to her, how it was going to affect her, with the warfare and all that stuff, right? But the thing that we have to realize is that when God has called you to something, it was always made and designed to be for more than just you. See, your assignment ain't about for your betterment and for your notoriety and for your name to be made great, but it was meant for God's name to be made great, because when you say yes to God's will concerning your life, that means that there is thousands of lives or hundreds of thousands or millions of lives that will be impacted because you submitted to God's will. So when it comes down to your assignment, when it comes down to you fulfilling purpose, destiny, when it comes down to you walking in the office that God has called you to be, when it comes down to you establishing that business, it's not about you. It's not even about your children's children. It is about what is going to remain in the earth after you have ascended on. And we have to realize that. And once we realize that we remove the selfishness out of it to realize that this is not about me. This is about that little girl that you got to go and minister to that just got raped by her uncle, and you can tell your story that you got raped and that God made you an overcomer. God, this is for the young man that has a desire to be an artist, and you have been an artist for 10 and 15 years, and you have built notoriety and built a name for yourself to inspire them to say, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of what? Our testimony, right? So how can they overcome until somebody can show them that they overcame? And so I'm saying all of that to say to what she was saying was very vital, because sometimes we put ourselves so much in the equation that we forget that we was made for the master's use, not our own. We don't even realize that we're literally chess pieces on a table, and we are expendable. He has hundreds and millions of people on this planet. You think you're the only one that can get done what he's trying to get done in the earth? So I'm saying this from a place, so that not for her, but I'm saying this for this room, for us to understand that when you come to a place in your journey and you're so focused on you and why you don't want to do it, or I ain't got enough money, I'm not talented, I'm not anointed, because you lack that confidence, is because you, again, don't realize who you are, or don't realize what your assignment is, or what your purpose is. And so that's why I'm glad she shared that in her transparency, because we've all had these moments. We have all had this moments that we have felt like, man, I don't want to do this. I've been through enough hell in my life. You think I want to take on and be an apostle? It was hell being a prophet. I mean, are you serious? Like, But then when you begin to move in what it is that God has given you grace to move in, and you begin to see that you're moving in dominion, power, and authority because you are in the place of grace, you're in the place where he's giving you authority, then you begin to see everything aligns up. But when you are not where you are supposed to be, you will not rule in dominion, power, and authority. You will have those issues with lack of confidence in yourself because you don't even have full understanding of what he's called you to be. So, woman of God, I thank you for sharing that, because that's something that somebody in this room needed to hear. To know that, look, I'm struggling too. Do I want to do this? I don't want to do this. I don't want to be no pastor. I don't want to be a shepherd over nobody. I don't want to be no entrepreneur. I'm fine working my little deadbeat job and getting my little $18, $15, $12 an hour. But God is trying to give you more, but you know that him giving you more is going to put more responsibility on you. But he will never put more on you than you can bear. Do you know that when God designed you, he knew what capacity you could be stretched? He knew that you had the ability to be stretched to a certain limit. When you look at rubber bands when they are created, when you see them, they're flaccid, they're lucid. But until you put a stretch on them, you wouldn't have knew that it could stretch to that capability, because it looked like it could break under the pressure. I really feel God is doing some deliverance in this room. And you are in this moment like, man, why am I being stretched? Because he knew. He designed you in a way that, no, you're not going to, if I stretch you beyond this, you will break. You will start to fray. But I know the limits I can stretch you to, because I created you before the foundations of the earth. I know your fullest potential because I put the potential in you. I know your gifts and talents. I know your anointings because I gave it to you. I know your ability to bring healing. I know your ability to give influence. I know your ability to produce change and to influence the world because I put it in you. So I want you to know, people of God, that what God has placed in you is not about you. It was always about the building of his kingdom to inspire generations to come and to leave a legacy that will live on beyond you. We still talking about Catherine Kuhlman. We still talking about all these other generals and all these other individuals because they paved the way through their suffering, through their endurance, through the warfare that they went through Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and all these other activists and people that have been there and done it, and they're dead and disintegrating in the grave. But if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't even know who we are. We wouldn't even know the passions that's on the inside of us. So I'm saying all that to empower you, to enlighten you, that regardless of what you think it is, that might not even be it. God has destined you for this moment, even in this room right now, to empower you, to inform you that he's made you for this. I made you for this, and I have need of you in this hour. And this is why I've called you to be and to do what it is. That's why I've given you this burden. That's why I give you these desires. That's why I've given you these challenges and given you these talents hidden in earthen vessels. This is why I've given you these treasures. I've given you these things because I already know your potential. Again, because I made you and I know you better than you know yourself. And so let that be an encouragement to you. And Overseer Nina, if you want to add to that, you are definitely welcome. But I'm telling you, God is speaking and he is doing some healing and he is doing some impartation in this room so that you can be able to have confidence in who you are, to know that he made you. He made you. He knows your capabilities. Go ahead, woman of God. Anybody else want to chime in?
Apostle, I wanted to say something off of what you were just sharing, and even in response to what Apostle Overseer Nina was sharing. Like, man, it's so crazy how God, like, well, it's not crazy, but it's awesome how God speaks. Because I was driving home early this evening. I recently took on the task as my pastor's administrator. And I knew that administrative is one of my gifts, but I wasn't planning to walk in that this soon. I mean, I've done it before, yes.
Before you continue, could you say that one more time?
Oh, am I in the Matrix?
No. Just say it one more time. I just want you to say it again.
You want to start from the top?
No, the last thing you just said, you didn't want to walk into that this soon.
I'll be talking. Yes, sir. Okay, so I didn't want to walk into it this soon because part of what you were just saying about feeling like you're not ready, you're not equipped, and all of that. I didn't doubt if I was equipped. I knew I could do it, and it's a passion. I actually enjoy doing it, but I was looking to do it in the workforce. I was looking for jobs of people that were looking for administrators, and I wasn't getting one call. And when my pastor asked, I remember it was so sudden because I've only been at his ministry for a short period of time, and I kind of came to the church thinking, I'm just gonna come and sit back and get a word and just hide in the shadows like I normally do, because I just feeling like, well, I'm just gonna be out here in the marketplace doing my thing. And then this opportunity presents itself, and it wasn't no pressure from him or nothing like that. Like, as soon as he asked me, I knew it was what God wanted. I knew the reason why, when I looked to utilize my gift, it wasn't opening up because he wanted me to do it here. But even in that moment, I was still like, but no, this can't be happening right now because I just got here. I'm like, can I just sit down? So at first I told him yes, and then I told him, Apostle, can you give me like a week or two because this is a lot. And he said, sure, woman of God, just let me know because I'm looking to move, and I didn't think I could do it. I said, wait, I know this is my skill set. I know this is part of my gifting, but I said, but me? And I literally sat with that for like a week, and the Lord like kind of let me have my little pity party. And then when I got done, he said, all right, so you done? And I'm like, well, I'm done. He said, okay, well, go call him back and tell him that you're the woman for the job. And I'm like, okay. So I did, and I've been doing it now for like a few weeks. That's where I was today, because I was helping him. And just I won't go into all the details, but there's so much opportunity that has happened to me just the fact that I'm doing what I'm doing as an administrator for him, I'm just sitting here in awe. Like, I'm saying, like, I didn't know any of this was going to happen, first of all. And then the fact that I'm just, I think you mentioned earlier, Apostle, about what you find your hands to do. like God just using what's in your hands. And I may not have felt like I had much. I may not have felt like, what I had was what he needed because of the level that he's on and the capacity that he operates in. But what I had was just enough and then some. And it's like he says, God is just continuing to just, like you just said about stretching, and that's what I feel. I feel a stretch, but I feel like I can handle it though. Like I go home today saying, man, I feel like I just got pulled like a rubber band. But I'm okay with it though. Like I feel like I'm in my grace. I'm in what you're telling me to do. But I'm still like, Lord, but wow, thank you for choosing me. Thank you for like not counting me out even when I wanted to count myself out. So when you guys were sharing that, just I'm sitting up here like, they about to have me over here crying. I don't like crying for people, but I'm over here about to be in like whole tears because it just spoke volumes just to what God was just doing. And yeah, I'm gonna use my mic because I talk too much, but I just had to share that.
Dude, this is some good stuff. I'm telling you, this is really, 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 really good. I'm telling you, this is needed, and sometimes we just need that extra oomph, that extra confidence, to know that you made for this. You are made for this. God knows, but you are made for this. So thank you so much for sharing that and the transparency in this room is beautiful. Anybody else want to chime in?
I will. Good evening to everyone who is on the stage, to the apostle. Can you hear me?
Yes. Loud and clear.
So I've never been in this room before. And hello?
Yes, you're good.
It keeps going in and out. And I am familiar with, so I don't know anybody. I am in a new place, transitioning taking place. I do know pastor, therapist, Lady Felicia, and have prayed with her for upwards of 6 to 8 months in a room in a Preacher's Wife Club, where we go in and we intercede. So when you pray with someone, you begin to know their spirit, and I trust the God in her. So that's all I have to say. I'm just cautious. I've been bouncing in and out of rooms all day today because I'm just very, again, cautious. If you can hear my heart. But the conversation in this room has really been awesome. So I'm just listening, and the woman of God that just spoke, Overseer Nina, a lot of what she said really speaks to me. As I have been born and raised in ministry, well, outside of the fact of backsliding and then coming back to the Lord, all I ever really wanted to do was sing a song, and I was happy with that. But God had other plans, and so here we are, born and raised in a very religious background for the majority of my life, except for the last 8 years, and the last 2 have been the most interesting, as the church that I am affiliated with now is about 2 hours away from me, and the bishop there covers me. And I would say in the beginning of the pandemic, you'd asked if I would be open to opening a church in my area. And at the time, I was not hearing that clearly. It had come up before because of my father,
who would ask me from time to time before he died, if that's what, the Lord was showing me. And I would say, I don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm good with being, prophetess, a prophet. I'm good with the prophetic. I'm good with seeing. I'm good with, just evangelizing, singing a song, and I'm good. But I don't know anything about a pastor.
Right.
So anyway, everything that she spoke, just about everything, really has been something I can concur with. I'm telling the Lord, let me just say this. I've always heard things in terms of ministry from God himself, spending intimate time with him, and having to hear things from other people, much like what you said, Apostle, didn't sit well with me. I feel like if God wanted me to be a pastor, I felt like he should have told me. He told me about other things. But it's taken 2 years that, and I'm still not quite comfortable, because that's not what I wanted. Once again, as many have said, it hasn't been a goal. I've got marketplace history, and he's shown me things about the umpire he desires for me to come into, but it wasn't to be a pastor. If I could be very transparent, I was cool with knowing I would walk with my pastor. I'd serve him. Whatever he needed me to do in terms of, Lord knows, what he had showed me from the beginning. So I feel like I'm ranting right now. But anyway,
you're good.
This is just, it's a very peculiar place, and I'm waiting on God, but I'm glad that I kept hearing you say, Apostle, it's not about you. It's about souls, and also the woman of God. It's about souls, and I love to minister to the people of God. I love to help somebody, and I don't want to be the one that's holding someone else up from getting what they need from God, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So, thank you for this opportunity. I'm just going to mute my mic and continue to listen to what's been said.